apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602, and to leave driveway having side yard of 2 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence AA District, south side of Vanderbilt Avenue, 207.57 feet east of Caleb's Pass, Central Islip.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. We're here tonight to establish an accessory apartment. The apartment is 708 square feet. The premises is owner occupied, and we are also here for variance for the driveway. It has a 2-foot side yard instead of the required 4 feet. It's been this way for 15 years. And we do need to make certain repairs so that engineering will sign off on their approval.
Good. Okay. No? Anyone else want to be heard on this application? No? I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
3 to 3 years for the accessory apartment.
Second that too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, your application's been granted.
Thank you.
Application number 178-23, Rogelio Ramos Aguilar and Jessica to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602 with driveway not meeting engineering specifications and having 2 front doors where a maximum of 1 visible front door is permitted. Residence B District, south side of Walter Street, 315 feet west of Henderson Place, Brentwood.
Good evening again, Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. We are here to establish an accessory apartment. The apartment is 800 square feet. The dwelling is owner occupied, and we are also here for the driveway. As per engineering specifications, the driveway is a little smaller than what is required. It's 21 wide by 25 foot deep. We have submitted a plot plan to zoning to widen the driveway, which they will be doing the work so that engineering can come back and give their approval. And as far as the 2 front doors are concerned, the second front door is being relocated to become a side entrance for the apartment.
So you don't need any variance on the second front door?
No.
Okay.
You want to amend that?
I'll make a motion to amend the application to take out the application for the 2 front doors.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me. Any other questions from the board? Or?
That was my only problem.
And I'm not sure if everybody, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention for a second, but the driveway will be
It's
modified.
It's being modified. It's
Okay.
too small right now to
Okay.
fit the 4 cars.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take a motion on this.
Make a motion to approve the application as amended. Concrete was denied, 2 front doors, approved of the balance of the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the modified application's been granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Application number 179-23, George and Gloria Horning. Permission to leave in-ground pool having rear yard of 10.9 feet instead of required 14 feet. Pool patio having rear yard of 5 feet instead of required 6 feet. And shed not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. Residence A District, northeast corner of Timber Point Road and Matinacloth Lane, East Islip.
Hi, I'm George Horning, 71 Timber Point Road, East Islip, 11730.
How long has that shed been there?
Since we bought the house, about 30 years.
Same shed?
Same shed. Yeah, I have statements to make. We had the pool put in. We had permits. We went through all the proper channels. I had an old survey. The town said, you can use the old survey. If there's anything on there that's not to code, then you're going to have to file for another variance. I paid a lot of money for a brand new survey, not even a year ago. The town looked at it, gave me the permit, and now they say, you know, the shed is too close. Why didn't they tell me that ahead of time? When they said that You get a new survey, anything that's on there that's not to code will be taken care of. It can be done under one
Let me ask you a
thing.
question. Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
You needed a new survey because you were building a pool?
Correct.
Okay.
I
just-
didn't need
okay.
the survey. I could have used the old one. They said to me, get a new one, and then if there's anything on it, that's not to code, we'll know, and you can file it for one variance.
Okay.
Like today. This
Since
is
you're
my second
asking
time.
questions,
Yeah.
I suppose you want answers, and we can answer those questions.
Okay,
When you apply for a permit for something like a pool,
right,
the town doesn't go over every single building and structure on your property. That's
Okay.
not their function, it's the pool. So they weren't charged, whomever reviewed it, to look for whether sheds comply, whether overhangs comply. They weren't looking for that. You were seeking a pool. So you obtain a building permit for the pool,
yeah,
and you had the pool, because I don't see the building permit yet, but you had the pool at 10.9, and they said, okay?
that's what the building department said.
No, well, we need
No.
to see let's just see the document. Who's got the
Oh,
building
it's
permit?
not in the file. So you must have indicated you were going to hold 14 feet, or else they wouldn't have issued a permit, right?
Well, I have a variance for 12.
Wait, how did
I
you?
was already
wait,
here.
Wait.
Oh, okay, you were here before.
Oh, you
I
were
was here
here. All right. You came here a couple years ago?
No, a little more than a year ago,
Okay, and you sought,
not even 2 years.
and you sought a variance to install a pool at 10.9 and 12 instead of 14.
Correct.
Did we grant that
It
variance?
was granted.
Okay, and then did you not build pool in the 2 year or?
They measured to my fence, and my fence is
Okay, so let's back up a second.
Over.
Okay,
my neighbor's
Granted
property.
with a side yard and a rear yard of 12.
Great, thank you.
But it looks
Right.
like it was built
Okay.
12 feet from the fence. on the
right,
side.
all right. So let's,
Right.
just to answer your question,
Okay,
your initial directive to us, it was the town's fault, the town did this, the town did that.
Oh.
No, I just want to answer your questions. The town did what good municipal officials are supposed to do. They granted you a permit at 12 and 12. Your pool people built it in the wrong place, not the town, unless you hired the town to build your pool. Your pool people measured off the fence, not your property line.
right.
So it's
Okay,
not the town. The town didn't do wrong by not finding your
Okay,
shed in the wrong place. The town didn't do wrong by building your pool in the wrong place. And the town wasn't charged with making your bed in the morning. So that was on you, both of those. But it's not earth shaking. Am I,
You're on.
yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this application? You have any other questions from the board? Theodore, you? Okay, take a motion.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck.
Your application is
Okay,
granted.
thanks.
Good night. Thank you.
Well, I would wait till they're 6:30. So that's 6. I don't think so. Application number 180-23. Christoph and Bozena Sabatko. Permission to leave shed with roof over having side yard of 3.1 feet and rear yard of 2.3 feet instead of required 4 feet each, with attached platform having side yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet, shed having 13 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of required 20 feet, and driveway having front yard occupancy of 42% instead of permitted 40%. Residence B District, west side of Rosevale Avenue, 116.75 feet south of Victory Drive, Ronkonkoma.
Good evening, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Andrew Malguanera, 713 Main Street, Port Jefferson, agent.
Mary, what do we normally have for the front yard occupancy for the driveway?
Well, the front yard occupancy was amended today to
Apparently it changed.
permit a maximum front yard occupancy of 40%.
So actually, that's good news. That means the applicant just has to reduce the driveway by 2%.
Or we give them a variance based on what we used to do.
Didn't we used to give 40%?
40% was what the board was comfortable with, yeah.
I
think
thought
we probably have
40%.
to move that by 5% up.
Well, I figured we should at least let the code be at 1 day old. I think it's like 6 hours old. Mr. McKay, what do you think?
I think we have to-
Whatever you
we have
want,
to
Mr.
amend
Wexler,
resolution
you know
to,
that.
No,
5%
how much time should we give a code before we amend
Look
it?
at this. So maybe the board wants to take a look at Rosevale Avenue. It is what's known as a 5-lane highway.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
This may be a good
It's
application.
a county road.
This may,
Precedent on-
this,
Way to taste test it. It's not even dry yet.
it's not.
Is there a motion?
There's nothing-
When does that code amendment take
When is it
effect?
published?
At
Yes.
9 o'clock
Oh,
this
it
morning.
was carried today by the town board.
So is it immediately?
So we
in
don't,
effect?
yeah, we don't, my understanding is the building department doesn't wait for it to be published actually in the town
It's immediately in
code.
effect.
Today?
So we would have to raise our usual variance.
Well, every case is different, right? We shouldn't really be just deciding based on a number.
We're okay
For
with
instance, in this case, it's a 5-lane county road.
And it's only 2, listen to me, it's only 2%. It's
There
not
you go. Giving away the store.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this application? No, I'll take a motion on the application.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, application is granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one. Application number 181-23,
Yeah.
Eric and Alyssa Caminati. Permission to leave patio having side yard of 2.1 feet instead of required 4 feet, and driveway having front yard occupancy of 69% instead of permitted 40%. Residence A District, west side of Patricia Avenue, 1,125 feet south of Celia Street, West Islip.
Hi, Alyssa Caminati, 1128 Patricia Avenue, West Islip, New York, 11795.
How does 42% sound?
The papers were already there when we bought the house.
I know, but 69 instead of 40 is huge.
I do have pictures to
I
show
mean-
you.
We have pictures.
Yeah,
You have a picture too?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have your pictures.
Because I thought it's just asphalt that is considered the driveway, not the paver part in the middle.
anything that's not
side.
grass or
Anything that's
dandelions,
not grass.
that's not permeable.
Okay.
Are the pavement permeable?
They should be,
Yeah, well,
but again, it was there before we even moved in. We bought it as is.
let's go with 42%.
The occupancy is anything that the car drives up to.
Right.
So unfortunately, you can
It's
see
all- yeah.
where there's a car on the airport, so that automatically makes it a driveway, which constitutes front yard occupancy. If it was thinner piece of paper, and if it was just a walkway, it would count differently. And it would be fine. But because it's noted as a driveway in the survey, because there's a car on it on the aerial.
Do they have
it's
2
covered.
driveways?
Okay.
Also, your problem is, what we don't see that often is you have 2 driveways.
And they've got the paper driveway on the survey. It's called the
Yeah.
paper driveway in between them.
Is that the
I
paver
think-
part?
Yeah, which
I-
almost makes it like a circular driveway.
I'm speaking just for myself, but I think 42% is probably where we're going to be going since the town just changed the law today.
25%.
No, I didn't, I'm 42 right now. It's only 6:30.
2 hours.
If you come back at 8:30, you'll be
Yeah, yeah,
45.
yeah.
Usually get 5% over. what-
Yeah, but
Theodore, do you know what the calculation would be if the pavers were removed?
Well, then it depends if it's thinner and counted as a walkway, then it doesn't count the same way, but if you took it away completely, I'm not actually sure what it would
Okay. But right now, they're counted in the calculations right now.
be. Right now it is, yeah.
Deirdre, if they added on one of these driveways, like they turned it into a walkway, that might reduce parking occupancy,
You
correct?
just can't base it in that parking lot option. That's kind of what differentiates it between walkway.
Have you considered doing anything like that?
I wasn't sure what to actually do,
Are you in a rush for this?
kinda.
Okay.
Not
'Cause
too
maybe-
rush.
Maybe you want to take a little time.
It's
and maybe
existing.
Call the office and talk to Deirdre about
Okay.
how that, because at this point, you're gonna lose a lot of that.
Yeah, it
I'm
was just
guessing. So
that
if-
whole
If some of it
paver
is turned to
part.
walkway, you might be better off. So you might want to take a little time to talk to them.
Okay,
You want to adjourn this for a couple of weeks or?
sure.
Would you take an adjournment and then speak with Deirdre?
Yeah.
All right.
How do I get her info?
Just request an adjournment.
Request it, okay.
Thank you.
Also secretary though.
Thank you.
Huh?
You also secretary.
Well, she'll be back in a minute, but
Well,
hold on
Wait,
one
wait,
second,
come
Ms.
back.
Cabinetti.
We're not
why
done
don't,
yet.
why don't you wait 1 second? We lost our secretary, but when we find her, she can give you the date.
Okay.
If we give you the date, it'll be the wrong date. And
Okay.
you'll show up and you'll be all by yourself.
Gonna be by myself, excellent.
Is 30 days enough or you need to get any more?
Yeah, no, that should be fine.
Deirdre.
We lost her too.
We lost you.
People are vanishing.
Well, people, this is a dangerous job.
Something I said,
It's the haircut.
here we go, it's the haircut.
One second.
I got a lollipop with it.
So how about this? With our secretary, we'll mail you a letter with the new court date, with the new hearing date.
Yeah.
We'll try to keep it as short as possible
Perfect.
And in the
Thank you.
meantime, if you could speak to Deirdre about modifying.
Thank you.
in the meantime. So I'll make a motion to adjourn the application for an unknown date, but as soon as we can,
Perfect.
All
Well,
right.
does anybody wish to be heard if they're here?
that too.
That too? Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, we found our secretary.
Trying to handle.
We want to give this young applicant a 30-day-ish date out.
Did you come back?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be April 11, would be 4 weeks from tonight,
Okay. Is that when you have it?
or April 28, 6 weeks from tonight.
You'll receive a letter in the mail.
The letter will
with
tell
the
me.
date.
Perfect.
Talk to Deirdre in the meantime.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we do it. So far.
Sorry,
No,
everybody.
I suggested it.
No, no.
I made a motion, yeah, to adjourn to the date certain now, and then just.
So we're hearing on this. Okay. Application number 182-23, Frank and Jacqueline Mazzarone. Permission to leave patio on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet and shed not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. Residence A District, west side of Sunset Drive, 490 feet south of Montauk Highway, Sayville.
Hi, Jacqueline Mazzarone, 22 Sunset Drive, Sable, New York, 11782.
How far behind the front of the property is the shed?
I think it's like 18. An 18 feet.
So they're measuring, Mary, they'd measure from the garage?
Yeah, you measure from the furthest
Right.
point, the closest point to the street, we'll put it that way.
Right. So that looks about 18 to you?
It does.
I'm okay with 8. We're okay. I'm okay with 18.
The shed is behind the front line of the actual hospital.
Right.
Right.
I mean, we could make you push it back 2 feet, but that would seem unnecessarily burdensome.
How is the shed constructed?
It was delivered to us, already constructed.
I'm okay with 2 feet.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this application? No? We'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Sable.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, application's granted. Thank
And that's
you
for
very
the slab too, that's on the left side.
much. That's what I was saying.
Okay.
Oh,
Stay
Thank
where
you.
it is.
Let's put it on the next case that she had a Smithtown conflict that she was going to do her best to get, but she may not be there, so. Has anybody arrived on 845-22, Michelle Aiello? Okay, that person was running late, so we're going to skip ahead.
Second call.
Yeah, sure.
We're recording via Zoom? Okay. She offered me the option to Zoom in with her. Okay, at this time, we want to make an announcement that our court reporter, there was a misunderstanding and is not going to be present for the hearing tonight. As everybody probably knows, the hearing is recorded right now. There's the camera. And we're live streaming via YouTube. So the hearing is being recorded and it can be transcribed. So just to let you know, there's no official court reporter. So if anybody is uncomfortable with that, you, of course, can ask for an adjournment and we'll give you another date. Application number 183-23, Unique Holdings of Oakdale LLC. Permission to erect accessory building with attached roof over 20 by 42.7, leaving side yard of 4 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence AA District, northwest corner of Union Street and Walnut Avenue, Bohemia.
Yes, good evening, Madam Secretary, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York. Sorry, I'm looking for the court reporter to give her information. So what we have here, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, is an existing 50-year-old barn. You can see here, it's already existing on the property. The dwelling structure was recently renovated by my client to look something like this. It was a very old house that was existing in Bohemia to go along with the barn. And what we're proposing to do is remove the barn. And I don't know if the board has seen the elevations that I'm holding up now. We're looking to remove the barn that's already existing at the 4-foot setback and construct a new pool house and a garage in the same location, same footprint, maintaining that 4-foot setback. We're also asking to expand the existing 20 by 30 footprint to approximately 20 by 42 to accommodate for the garage. When the owner of the house, Phyllis Farantello, by the way, the applicant is the contractor who's standing to my left. The owner of the house purchased it about 3 years ago, and it had a portico, if you will, like a roofed over portion to the north of this existing barn. The town required, apparently that was constructed illegally, but that was a place that cars were being parked, and the town requested, somewhat demanded, that that portico or carport be removed as part of the application that we made to renovate the existing dwelling structure. With that being said, you don't have it before you, but there's also going to be coming soon an application. My understanding is that Dunright Pools just last week filed an application or a letter of denial with the zoning department for the installation of a pool. So I'd like to hand up a series of surveys along with the denial for the pool.
Mr. Bertolino, if they're going to be raising the existing and rebuilding, why don't they build it compliant?
And that, Mr. Wexler, is why I'm handing up the document that Jay has now to show you. The location of the pool is being situated on an east-west access so that we maintain 21 feet off the existing septic system that's already in the yard. The pool also, if you can look at page 2 of what I handed up, I gave multiple copies. The pool would be required to maintain a 35-foot setback off of the second front on Walnut Avenue. So we're already squeezing the pool in, if you will, between the required setback. We're asking, not tonight, I know it's not before the board now, but I wanted you to have a full picture. I am not involved in the pool application, but I know it is coming from Dunright Pools, which I know this board is familiar with. At some point, the pool would be situated between the Walnut Avenue to the east and the existing barn structure, which we hope to convert into a pool house to the west.
I just, so I understand, they're raising the existing, they want to build it 4 feet instead of 10 because they propose to build a pool. And if they build the pool, they want to have enough separation from tonight's application.
That's correct. And I understand, Mr. Wexler, we're asking to raise the existing structure, and raise meaning knock down, not lift up.
R-A-Z-E.
We're looking to raise the existing structure and construct a new structure in primarily the same footprint. And I did inform the owner of the property that this may be troublesome or questionable to the board. And just speaking with her just a few moments ago outside, we'd be willing to withdraw that part of the application, which would expand the footprint for the garage, if this board saw in its leniency to grant us the ability to maintain the footprint as it exists. So instead of going from 20 by 43, which would include the prior carport, which had to come down, we would be asking for a 20 by 30, which is the same footprint that exists now with this unsightly barn. I believe Ms. Pissarro may have presented to the members letters from all of the neighbors that we had gotten prior to this evening's hearing that all offered support.
Is the barn legal as it stands now?
Yes, the barn is legal as it is now.
So is this a non-conforming use
Yes.
application?
No, because we're raising it.
Taking the whole thing down?
We're taking the whole thing
So
down.
you lose the non-conforming. But in the end of the day, you're proposing now to build basically what's present.
Yes, in the same footprint.
And I guess you'll put a roof on it. That looks like
Yeah,
a flat roof.
it will have a 14-foot peaked roof, and I can show you the elevations once again. If you haven't seen them.
No, as long as they're rebuilding what they have. I don't care.
So you're taking off the part that expands it any bigger than it is now?
Yes.
So, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
Mr. Sullivan, that is correct. So just to be clear, there was a portico that to get the CO on the renovation of the house, the town required us to remove that portico, which apparently was not legal. But the rest of the barn was legal as it exists and as it stands. So what we were hoping to do was to replace that portico with an attached garage to the pool house. However, we understand that it's problematic to expand what's already there. As a compromise, if you will, the applicant has said to me she'd be willing to maintain the footprint that's there if we could build that new pool house minus what we requested in that part of the call of the meeting to go to 43 feet or 42.9. It would actually maintain the existing footprint.
So in the call of the meeting, which part are you taking out? I just want to be clear.
Well, Mr. Sullivan, the call of the meeting doesn't decipher. It just says 20 by 42.7,
So what are you asking for?
20 by 30.
20 by 30, which is the existing
So
footprint.
you're okay if we grant 20 by 30?
I would be most appreciative if this board saw fit to grant the 20 by 30, raising the existing structure, allowing us to build a new structure.
Yep,
to
we got it.
Look like the house that exists.
All right, so we'll modify the call accordingly. It'll be roofed over 20 by 30 foot, leaving side yard of 4 feet instead of required 10 feet.
Correct.
Okay.
Please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, application is granted as amended.
Thank you.
Anybody wish to hear?
Anybody wish to be heard?
I'm sorry.
Other than Mr. Bertolino?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to grant the application as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Now the
you.
application is granted.
Mr. Wexler, on a side note, I missed you about a month ago.
I heard you had precedent.
Well, not only did we have precedent, but we had the seashore here. And I said in the wisdom of Bill Wexler, I'll sue you if you don't grant this to me.
I was down in Florida, and that's all they were talking about, is that Steve Bertolino had precedent for an application. It was-
Well, what they should have been talking about is how much I really missed you that evening.
You shouldn't lie on the record.
Even if it isn't a scenario.
Yeah, right, he's not on the road. Thank you.
She's arrived at 6:30. We'll skip her for a little while longer. I'm not gonna go backwards yet.
Okay.
Sometimes we do.
Yeah, then this is the no-show, so we actually. We'll wait a while.
Right.
Application number 184-23, Deborah Molinari. Permission to leave decking having front yard of 6.8 feet and rear yard of 8.3 feet instead of required 15 feet each. Side yard of 2.6 feet instead of required 5 feet. Shed with shower having rear yard of 8.3 feet instead of required 10 feet. And arbor having front yard of 4.5 feet instead of required 60 feet. Residence BAA District, east side of Pine Walk, 80 feet south of Central Walk, Bear Harbor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Charles J. Brody, architect, 30 Bethesda Lane, Sable, New York, representing the property owner. As stated in the call, the property owner wishes to maintain the existing dwelling, shed, deck, walkways, and shower as shown on the survey on this non-conforming property in a B-AA residence district. In speaking with planning, there seems to be several precedences for the setbacks that we are requesting.
Deirdre, do you have any comment on this?
There is precedent. The only thing that I wasn't able to find exact precedent for was for the front yard. part of
The
deck.
arbor?
The arbor, there is one for a front yard of 7'7". So this, I think, was requesting 4.5. So there's a 3-foot difference from a previous grant. But the arbor, from speaking to Mr. Brody, I think it's just like a trellis walkthrough, so I don't think it'd be too.
Do you have any pictures of the arbor?
Actually, I don't.
How deep is the arbor?
Oh, the depth of the arbor is probably 3 feet
3 feet and
open.
how wide?
It's
Like
as
10
wide
feet?
as wide as the walkway, which is roughly about 8 to 9 feet.
Okay. It's a trellis
Yeah, it's basically a trellis on the arbor.
using Deidre's. Okay, I'm good.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this application? No, any other questions from the board?
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, application's granted as is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Somebody opposed to it? Looks like they're bad news.
Application number 185-23, Rosa Mazregos and Edgar Alvarado Umanzer, to renew permit for accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-616, Residence B District, southwest corner of Cinnamon Street and Branch Avenue, Central Islip.
Sandy Tursis is speaking on behalf of my mother, Rosa Mazariegos,
Can you please provide us with your address?
74 Cinnamon Street, Central Islip, New York, 11722.
And you're translating for your mom, and what did you
Correct.
say your name was?
Sandy Tursis.
Okay, thank you.
Mary, is there a reason why this is public renewal?
There is. We received 2 letters from neighbors who are mostly concerned about cars, a lot of cars on the street, and that neighbors both signed their names.
Does everything else comply?
Yes.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this application?
If I may, if I'm, just me down.
I believe so.
Yep. So if you could just step aside, please, we're going to hear from your neighbor.
Harry Penn. I live behind the house, and for the past 10 years, maybe, they've been there. And the application that for apartment that was granted, it was granted, but it was a two-car garage. And I think they had cut that up to make apartment. I think it more than 3 apartment because the amount of cars there at nighttime, we surround the block. You can't get out on the clear passes on Branch. So that's our concern. How many apartment is there in the building? It was a two-family garage and a single-family house.
Do you have any concern that the applicants don't live there?
Do the application live there?
Do the applicants live there? Do you have any concern that the applicants don't live there?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
Where do you live, sir? And
Oh, you're just telling us adjacent to the south. Oh, adjacent to the west?
On Tree Avenue?
And where are you complaining that the cars park?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm reading from some correspondence that we have, and we're advised that there is a two-car garage that was turned into an apartment, and there are two apartments in the back of this house. There are 4 cars in the driveway, and 4 cars on Blanche Street off of that's probably what this gentleman was saying was the number of cars. It's probably driven by the number of apartments. Apartments have people. What I would ask, Mr. Chairman, is that we have the town perform an inspection to see in fact that there are apartments.
is that all right? We'll have someone come out and inspect the property to see all the apartments that you have? If you could just speak into the microphone, I'm sorry.
Thing is that there are cars and everybody has like a car itself, basically. And she said we only have one apartment. Like upstairs is my
Well,
mom.
then that's why we'll have an inspection by the town to conform or confirm that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this application?
So Sandy, who should we contact to schedule the inspection?
Myself or my mom.
Okay.
So what's the best thing, hold it in abeyance?
No, no,
Inspection,
you
we
want-
don't
yeah,
have to
you
bring
want
back.
that.
We vote based on the inspection.
Yeah.
Can we just, maybe we just reserve based on?
Well, we're
That's
right,
right.
I think that's a
based
good
on the
idea.
inspection.
Okay, so
Let me
I'll
make
take a
sure we-
motion to reserve.
Second.
I would second.
Okay, so we're going to reserve decision, and then based on the inspection, we'll make a decision after that. Okay? Hold on one second. We want to make sure we have your contact information.
Sandy, the number we have is 431-2639.
That's my mom.
Okay. Is that okay to call?
I'd rather for you to call me because she's
Okay.
really understanding.
Okay, Shanita's going to get
One
your
second.
contact information for me. Would you mind? Thank you. She'll get your information and we'll just call the next piece and we'll be in touch. Thank you. Okay. Application number 186-23, Jeffrey Lewis and Karen Miller Lewis. Permission to erect deck 23.9 by 25.6, leaving side yard of 6.6 feet instead of required 15 feet. Residence BAA District, northwest corner of Sloop Walk and Club Walk, Summer Club.
Good evening. I'm Glenn Graham with Graham Associates, 256 Orinoco Drive, Brightwaters. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. This project involves raising an existing home and reconstructing an existing deck. The house is on the bay along with the subject deck. The deck currently is conforming, but when we lift it, it becomes non-conforming. What makes this property a little bit unusual as well is that it is bayfront, but there's also a thin strip of land that's owned by the Summer Club that runs along the bulkhead, and it varies from like 3 feet wide to 7 feet wide. So if you add that land in, we'd be almost conforming. So the 6.6 variance also does have case precedent in the neighborhood. Down to 1/10 of a foot, case 32799 was granted 0.1 instead of 15.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
what's the height of the existing or old deck?
The old deck's, I think, almost grade level, 18 inches, and we're going to be up about 7 feet now because it's a FEMA house lift. But that deck is on the bay,
Right.
no neighbors, and it also has that thin strip of land owned by the Summer Club. And on top of that, if you look, it's like a triangle-shaped portion, so only a tiny bit of it is at the 6.6.
What's at the greatest depth? What is it?
It's close to 11 feet.
And that's not using the Summer Club property to buffer it.
The Summer Club property would include that. Otherwise, we're at 6.6 because our lot line is straight. If you look on that map I brought up, it's I outlined it in yellow. The deck is in the red.
The precedent that you cited, is that a raised? I don't think, tell me, is that a 7 foot off the ground deck?
I do have, well, one of them's at 0.1 instead of 15, but diagonally across the street is the
I'm
Hirsch
sorry, the one
residence.
that's 1 plus instead of 15.
Well, I'll give you one that's raised. That,
Well, what's the height of the 1 foot?
I don't know that height, but the one that is raised is diagonally across the street. Case 798-19 was granted 3.2 feet instead of 15. That does have a neighbor that's impacted. This is a bayfront home. We're staring out to the bay. It's their
Which
backyard.
is the property that was granted?
Diagonally across.
I'm not good with diagonals.
It is to the southwest, the Hirsch residence, Scott Hirsch.
Can you point it out?
That's that one? And where is? We grant, I know we had several applications for Mr. Hirsch.
Yes, I presented that. There's also 2.2 instead of 15.
We granted the 1 instead of 15 at 7 feet?
Yes, I have the application with
Why
me
did we
here.
do that?
Because you like me.
Might have been on
Because there was precedent for that case, I'm
I
sure.
may have been in Florida.
David, do you have any?
Yeah, I also have precedent. There was grants for side yards of 5.1, 7.3, 8.5.
That were raised, 7 feet?
Well, probably around like 6 or 7 feet. Around.
Okay.
We also have a letter of support from the neighbor that's most impacted as well. The
So
other,
then we're
the other
okay with the
neighbor is the
6.
Summer Clubhouse.
You okay with the 6.6?
Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions from anyone on the board? Is there anyone else here that would like to be heard on this application? No? Anyone like to make a motion? on this application?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, application's granted.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Application number 187-23, Michael and Jennifer Kane. Permission to erect one-story addition leaving front yard of 35 feet instead of required 40 feet, two-story addition and roofed-over patio leaving side yard of 11.1 feet instead of required 14 feet, having floor area ratio of 34.4% instead of permitted 25%. To leave driveway having side yard of 2.5 feet instead of required 4 feet, and front yard occupancy of 36% instead of permitted 35%. And to leave rear yard landscaping of 25.2% instead of permitted 40%. Residence A District, south side of Arcadia Drive, 160 feet east of Spruce Avenue, West Islip.
unpack it, and then you have to give them each one of these whatever's left.
You don't have any of those issues, right? Thank you. Mr. Chairman. So the letters.
Sir.
Charlie.
All the letters are in here.
Chad.
I hear there's going to be some amendments. Why don't we start with that?
That would be fine. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Eric J. Russo, Van Brun, Jeswiak, and Russo, with offices at 140 Main Street, Sable, New York, 11782. I'm here this evening representing the applicants, Michael G. Kane and Jennifer L. Cade of 361 Arcadia Drive, West Islip, New York. They are the property owners of the subject premises since July of 2019. As stated by Ms. Pissarro, the property is on the south side of Arcadia Drive, 160 feet east of Spruce Avenue in West Islip. Tax number is correct, the residence district is A, and the applicant started out seeking about 6 variances for this particular application. I met with them last Thursday, reviewed the application with them and their architect, and we are modifying the application this evening after we've had multiple discussions with the planning division, the building division, and the zoning section in order to try and bring the application closer to conformity, given the size of the property and the relief being requested. The reason that we're here is their home. I also put in and gave you all binders that have a total of 28 photographs in the document. There are 19 of the subject premises, 9 of the other areas surrounding as to this property. And what you can see on the photograph and the very first ones of the residents got flooded on the second floor.
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt you for a second? Before we get started and everything, can we just see the amendments first?
Sure,
need to know
I
what we're
gave
gonna be
you a
looking at.
sheet, Mr. Chairman. The sheet
I'm not
is,
the chair.
He's the chairman.
I'm sorry.
He wants to give you.
He wants to.
No, I'm only kidding.
Well, there's
No,
always,
but we have
I
to,
just want to put on the record what the
I
amendments are.
apologize.
we're
I'm
going to be
sorry.
amending the record, so Mr.
If we're
Sullivan
gonna
is trying to
amend the record,
expedite this.
I provided a sheet as requested by Ms. Pissarro to show moving closer to conformity. On the sheet that I provided you, it shows the original request, the proposed, and the Islip Town zoning code requirement. It's indicated on the front yard, there's 35 feet, proposed is 36.5, and the requirement is 40 feet. It shows the side yard of 11.1 as being requested, and proposed is 11. It shows also a town requirement of 14. The floor area ratio was originally requested at 34.4, and it's showing that we now have 30.4, and the requirement is 25% under the code.
And we have precedent for all of that, or you have precedent?
Ms. Ryan and I have had numerous conversations, and we have precedent for the FAR. I have 4
Okay,
cases.
so let's amend the, yes.
I agree.
Were there any other amendments, Mr. Russo?
No, what we're deleting is the 3 below it. The variance deleted are the driveway side yard 2.5, 4 feet's required, we made it 4 feet. We're deleting front yard occupancy of 36%. We were proposing 36, and we have 40%, and there's been a code amendment to allow for that as of today. And then we have a rear yard landscaping of 25.2. We're now showing proposed 43.8, and there's a requirement that you have to have 40. So those 3 are being deleted because after discussion with Teresa Bale and also Dan Burgos, it was determined that the swimming pool that was originally included in their denial needed to be extracted out of the proposal, which is how we were able to increase what was going on. So those are the amendments we're seeking tonight.
Okay, so the call will then read, permission to erect one-story addition leaving front yard of 36.5 feet instead of required 40. Two-story addition and roofed-over patio leaving side yard of 11 feet instead of required 14. Having floor area ratio of 30.4% instead of permitted 25%.
That's correct.
Okay. So I'll take a motion to amend the call of the meeting accordingly.
Wait. I'll make a motion to amend,
The call of the meeting.
yes.
Call of the
I'll
meeting.
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
And
so the
everything
call of the
else-
meeting has been amended.
And everything else is staying the same, that's what's there. So
That's correct.
That's what we're hearing from now on.
That's correct.
Okay, continue, Mr.
The reason we're here this evening for this variance application and the relief being sought is the client's property had been flooded. There was an internal flooding of the second floor which damaged the entire structure. They've owned the property since July of 2019, and this occurred last summer. As you can see in the photographs I've provided to you in the binders, you see the residence itself from the east and the west side of the property as well as straight on.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said it's flooding, but
Flooded.
when we hear,
Flooded, it was flooded.
oh,
From the
flooding,
second
not
floor.
flooding. Okay, I'm always thinking it's the
No,
water
no.
coming up.
Plumbing down.
Understood, thank you.
As a result, the house was deemed inhabitable, insurance claim was filed, and as a result, the residents acquired a trailer, which is now placed in the front yard until the construction and renovations are complete. So Mr. and Mrs. Kane, along with their father, Mr. Kane's father, and their three children, ages 4, 7, and 12, are residing in the premises as shown in the photograph. The application then moved forward. We started with the original application. We have now amended it. And in going through it in the elements of 267B, in our opinion, there's no undesirable change being proposed in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as is evidenced from the photographs showing the character of the neighborhood, the style of the homes. And I know that a plan of the proposed structure was provided to the zoning board. I didn't put it up there because I know you already may have seen it or it's part of the application. There's no other way for the applicant to pursue other than the relief being sought. Part of the variance, the house was first constructed in 1953 in February, and the actual residence itself was 11 feet from the side yard on the west side, and the setback was 36.1 in the front yard. The FAR, in our opinion, is not substantial because we're proposing now 30.4. In discussion and review of town records, there were 4 cases that appeared before this board. Case number 13016, where you granted 30.2 in the neighborhood. Case number 685-05, where you granted 30.4. Case number 15699, where you granted 30.8. And case number 360-04, which had an existing house, but you granted 31. Our FAR falls smack in the middle of what has been previously approved by this board. There's no adverse physical or environmental conditions that would result as to the relief being requested because there is Suffolk County water, there's health department approval, the land is level and fat as you can see in the photographs. There is no runoff from the property that was able to be discerned, and there's grass and plantings around the entire property, and the front yard will be enhanced upon approval of the application and obtaining a CO. There are certificates of occupancy, compliance, and building permits for everything on the property. Nothing is there without having gotten a permit from the town of Islip. I provided you with copies of all 7 of those. The alleged difficulty is not self-created. It was an act of God that caused the problem in this particular case. And therefore, we are asking that, and we do not in any way alleviate or violate conformity in the neighborhood. So we ask that the 3 minimum variances that are being sought be granted to preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood, its health, safety, and welfare, and at the same time grant the applicants the minimum variance necessary to proceed with the reconstruction of their home, of which they have a financial investment. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
It's your position that we have precedent for everything you're asking for in the amended application?
That's correct. It's either, based on the amendment, it's either been amended by code or, in this particular case, precedent for what we're seeking.
Just going to ask Deirdre, That's the town's position on that?
Yes, there's precedent for the front yard of 37.8, 33.7. There's precedent for the FAR at 30.8, 30.1, 30.2, and 30%. And there's precedent for the side yard as low as 7.5, 8.97, 10.8, and 11.9.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for Mr. Russo?
Yeah, sure.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this application? If you could please stand up, step up to the podium.
Hello. Do you want me to say my name?
Please state your name and address, ma'am.
Marie Giuliano, 15 Caroline Court, West Islip.
If you could speak up.
15 Caroline Court, West Islip.
Thank you very much.
Where do you live in relation to this property?
Behind them.
Can you point it out on them? Just want to see where it's at.
This one, 15 Carroll Ave.
And where's the subject property? Okay. Okay. Go ahead, continue, please.
So there's a lot going on, which that nice attorney did not inform you of. This family, since the day they moved in, has been doing non-stop construction, most of which was without permits. They tried to open up their roof in 2020 to build a top floor without a permit. I have been in constant contact with the town over these things. I'm still concerned about many of these things that are taking place on their property. It has impacted my life and the life of my family, my children, my grandchildren. Constant saws going off at 8 o'clock in the morning every single weekend for years. It has been nonstop. They chose to put an enormous pool in on a small parcel of property. I mean, are they setting out to make this a commercial destination? I don't know, but it looks more like a Club Med. To now double the size of their house or whatever the stats are, I know that they're amending it, which is great, but none of us have had time to read the amendment.
How do you know they didn't have permits when they built?
Oh, because,
The attorney said they have permits for everything, so. I was
right,
asking.
well, they have it now because they were reported. So let's not lose sight of that. From the moment they moved in, they removed a back door, a staircase to the basement, windows, the whole back of the house was taken apart. I called the town because it was just nonstop and they said there's no permits. I had the town come. I also reported this enormous, it looked like a Long Island Railroad car in their yard that had been there for years for storage. Just debris. It looked like I was living next to Sanford and Son junkyard for years, and I put up with it, but it was never ending. And like I said, in 2020, the roof all of a sudden has all these tarps, and the wife had texted me that they had permits to open up the top floor. I called the town, they said there's no permits.
You know, if they're using power tools
Yeah.
prior to a certain time, the town will issue
The
tickets.
town really hasn't done much to help. They haven't. And so for instance, right now, I had said to the town, I don't understand when they filed for their CO of the house many years ago, a survey was used which showed a garage, an attached garage. I said to the town, are you not aware that that garage no longer is there? And you're giving them permits with a survey that is not representative of how the house is now. They had put a portico up. None of this stuff was CO'd. None of this stuff was permitted. So this survey with an attached garage, which is now missing, and I will also state, I grew up around the corner. I went to that elementary school. I played with the people who owned that house. I went to school with them since 3rd grade. There was a shed there. So now the town said, well, they said there's not a shed there, and we don't have proof that there ever was a shed there. And if you look in your packets, because I looked through them this afternoon, it has a certificate. I'm not going to say certificate. It has some sort of document stating we can't really prove there was a shed there. The next document stapled to it clearly shows the CO from 1953 clearly saying attached garage. But everybody is just like, he's telling me I know everybody. I know people. This is so insulting to those of us who do things the right way.
Can I ask you though,
Sure.
based on the application that's been amended, what is the major thing that's there that really offends you?
Well, a major concern is a lot of the stuff that's done on the property is done by him. I have had lighting done on my fence, on my tree. I've called the town and said, I'm afraid I'm gonna have a fire in my tree, and my house and my tree were right on top of each other, a beautiful maple tree. I said, I'm afraid I'm gonna have a fire here. Nobody did anything.
I'm just asking you specifically of what's in the application now that it's amended.
The
What
concern
specifically in
is-
here? Let me finish. What specifically is in here that they're asking for that offends you?
Them enlarging their house puts them closer to my property. They're close enough as it is. The noise is horrible, to say the least, on a constant basis. Usually weekends are the worst, with music playing every weekend and saws going at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Again, I'm just asking you what specifically that they're going to change on the house is what offends you.
They're going to
Noise.
enlarge it, put a top floor, make it closer to my house.
So that's the biggest concern you have is the fact that there's going to be a top floor closer to your
Well,
house.
that's a big concern. I have many other ones. I mean, I have minor children in my house. I have
I'm
babies
just
in my
asking you to
house.
specifically what's listed in the call of the meeting that we have to decide tonight.
Okay.
What specifically is in there that's offending you?
Enlarging their top floor and moving back towards my house and towards the side of the property, which will affect their neighbors as well. When I go to sell my house, this is going to affect the property value of my home and the homes around us. It's overbuilding on a tiny parcel. And for this attorney to claim that a water issue, they had a water issue, fix the house. You don't have to double the size of it. You don't have to encroach on everybody and get variances just because somebody else got it. Maybe they warranted it. Not everybody should get a variance that comes through here.
We appreciate you being here and saying that.
So
Thank you.
just to clarify, the plans in your green folders have been substituted, correct? Applicant, with a new plan that is in the submission that was handed out today.
Oh, I'm on the old plan. You need the new plan?
I didn't see it.
We're on new business. We already
Well, it
got
came in the glossy
Oh, I didn't.
50-page.
I only got to
brochure that you
page
didn't-
47.
Jan, do you have this one? That looks like this one.
Uh,
There you go. What is
Oh,
it?
oh.
Mr. Russo, would you let Mr. Russo, please? How
Yes, Mr.
far-
Wexler.
How far is the applicant extending the footprint toward the neighbor's home?
If you look on the floor plan that's there in front of you, the cross hatch there is a tan spot that says X, existing covered raised patio. And the
I'm
one-story,
asking a number. That's, I don't, just, how far are they extending? Is it a
It's-
positive
it's
integer,
all
greater
12
than 10?
12
less
feet,
than-
12 feet less than the existing structure. It's only going on the left-hand side. It's the cross thatch.
It's
In
not
the
going, it's not going closer to the neighbor's house.
No, it's not going
No,
close.
okay.
So
The
it's,
existing structure is closer to the neighbor's house that
that's,
has a certificate of compliance.
So I guess I wanted the.
Dimension,
No, I'm sorry, the young lady, I didn't get your name, I'm sorry, I didn't. Marie?
Marie.
Yeah, apparently they're not going closer to your home, just so you're clear. And then
What I received in the mail, it appears like they were going like 20 feet closer.
they
So,
amended
they've
that.
changed that tonight, man.
so this.
this is existing.
Mhm.
May I point out to her?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
So what I'm showing her on the diagram that you have in front of you is the existing covered raised patio, which is the tan colored box. The proposed house one-story addition, which is the first floor, not a second floor, is only going, it's 15 feet on the existing, and it's going 12 feet. And it's 12 feet this way, so it's back behind this.
So, okay.
Right,
hang
but
on,
it's
hang on,
closer
okay.
to my house by 12 feet.
No, it's not.
No.
ma'am.
How are you, so I live here.
No,
Is
we
it-
live back here.
Oh, okay. Oh,
This
this
is-
is the front.
This is the front street. I'm
Mhm.
pointing out to her Arcadia.
Okay.
And the house, your house is behind here, behind the pool, behind the grass.
But here you're saying a
This is the
one-story.
house. This is a one-story addition.
Right.
Everything else,
Okay, but I live here and this is 11 feet or 12 feet closer to my house.
but the existing residence here on the raised patio and covered is 15 feet, is 17 feet.
This is more living space. It's going to be more noise.
Okay, let's just move on. Let's just
Okay.
move on. Additionally, Mr. Russo, you're seeking 30.4 instead of 25, and I'm sure there's plenty of precedent in this area.
There are 4 cases that you
Yes,
have done.
that's right, you gave, okay. All right,
Is
thank
there
you.
anyone else that would like to be heard on this application? Please state your name and address for the record.
Robert Smith, 357 Arcadia Drive, West Islip. I live directly west of the proposed house.
Could you just point out on the map?
Sure thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, board, I'd just like to say real quick, I had a beautiful thing written out. You guys took care of so much of it, it's ridiculous. It's really, really nice to have this.
Glad to help.
Nice job. So I do have a couple concerns. One of them, and if I could just be correct, it would be great. Considering the fact I'm directly west of the neighboring house, is that house being proposed to be built closer to the property line?
No,
No, so the
Mr.
footprint
Russo?
on that,
Not on your side.
not on your side.
It's the opposite side that they're.
It's on the opposite side.
Thank you.
I'll show him the diagram.
He's going up.
Your house is here.
He's going up.
thank you.
This is your house here.
Okay.
This is the existing house. This is the existing concrete patio.
Right.
The additions are on the east side.
Okay.
So this is 17.4 feet, which only has to be 14. And the addition is going that way, and it's 15.8 by 43 on that side of the house.
Okay, so this being the structure,
This is
right?
the existing residence.
Okay, is that the same footprint as the residence right now on this side?
Yes.
So nothing comes closer to
Nothing's
this
coming
side?
closer to you.
And the chimney and the pool equipment and everything?
Remains.
Okay, so it was 11 foot anyway,
It's
so it was
11
it was
feet.
never 14 feet?
It
then?
was never 14 feet. And then
Okay.
in the CO was 11 feet, going back to 1953.
So, now, I mean, the required 14 feet meant nothing because the house.
The code was changed
The code was changed.
after 1950.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Yes, one more thing. So the second story, that's gonna be fully in the back, or just above the new extension that's coming outside where the living space is gonna be?
Going to be added over the existing first story. It's not changing the footprint. It's not going closer to your house.
Right. No, but I'm saying the whole second story is gonna take over the whole back, it's going all the way up the whole width of the house, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, then I guess I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Was there anyone else who would like to be heard on this? Please step up.
My name is Raul Fusco. I just simply want to point out that,
Can you just give us your address, please, sir?
1488 Deer Park Avenue, North Babylon, but I'm Jennifer's father.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I just want to simply say that this couple here is making a substantial financial investment in this property. It's going to improve substantially the value of not only that property, but the surrounding properties. An allegation was made that property values would suffer by these improvements.
Okay,
I respectfully disagree.
thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this application? Mr. Russo, is there anything else?
No, I do not. I provided you with 8 copies of letters in support. They were the original letters. I put them in the binder that I gave you. And there are neighbors that are on Arcadia Drive, as well as the surrounding streets in Spruce and the other streets in the neighborhood. I have nothing further. Again, I ask, based on the relief that we are seeking, the modification closer to conformity, that you would grant the application because of the hardship that is currently being experienced by the property owners in order to proceed with new construction and their family to move on. So I thank you, unless you have any other questions.
Any more questions from the board? And no one else would like to be heard? All right, the record's closed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we reserve decision.
Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the application's been reserved.
Thank you. Any indication of what timeline it might go forward? Because we are in need of a building permit. The insurance monies for this reconstruction are possibly going to be terminated, and they have to figure out what they're doing next.
No, we don't have a time frame right now. No.
I know by statute you have 62 days, but I would
Yes.
hope that that wouldn't be the case in this particular instance.
So we will
Understood.
move expeditiously as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Wexler. Have a good evening.
Does anybody want to go back and do the person that had the conflict in mind or something? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. That's it. You're absolutely. That was also your thing. Yeah, because that means everybody waits.
You show up, here I am.
John was the second, and he was- she's here with you already.
Yeah, it's like, so you show up. I wish I'd come to court whenever, I'm selected, you don't stop.
It's when it's a conflict with another board that has its hearings on the same night as us. We're more.
To us.
Undoubtedly.
To us.
It's true.
Application number 188-23, Michael and Dana Murphy. Permission to erect one-story dwelling, leaving first floor elevation of 13.5 feet instead of permitted 13 feet. Front yard of 23.5 feet instead of required 25 feet. Side yard of 7.5 feet instead of required 10 feet. Rear yard of 20.5 feet instead of required 25 feet. To erect decking, leaving side yard of 10 feet and rear yard of 12.6 feet instead of required 15 feet each, all having floor area ratio of 41.74% instead of permitted 30%. Residence BAA District, southeast corner of Sloop Walk and Central Roadway, Summer Club.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Winkler. My address is 474 Montauk Highway, West Islip. I am representing the applicant of this house, Michael Murphy, and I'm also representing the next application. So a little bit of what I'm going to say now will be relevant to the next application as well. The applicant is seeking to build a brand-new house. He bought a vacant piece of property. And what I did is I gave you a map of Summer Club so you could get a sense of how all the houses are laid out. And also to let you know that there are 46 homes in Summer Club right now. All of them are a minimum of 60 by 100 per the bylaws of the Summer Club Condo Association. Some are 90 by 100 and others are 120 by 100.
Ms. Winkler, if I
Yes?
could just interrupt you.
Please.
To me, the only issue is the elevation. Everything else seems de minimis. Since this is new construction and why can't the applicant build it at 13? And is there any precedent for 13.5?
Yeah, the architect at Kruger will speak on that.
Great, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Pfluger, Bolo Pfluger Architects, 85 East Main Street, Bay Shore, New York, 11706.
Why not 13?
Basically, the home is located in the AE9 flood zone. It's customary to put the lowest structural member just at DFE. As the board probably knows that the New York State Building Code puts a 2-foot freeboard above the FEMA base flood elevation. So that brings us to elevation 11. Our floor thickness, including the floor girder and the floor joist, is about.
But my query is, we've done a lot of these lifts on Fire Island, and the other applicants, as far as my memory is, complied with 13.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, we have a thicker floor pack.
No,
I mean,
not going to,
sure.
To make a thinner floor, but why everybody else has complied?
Yeah, I mean, I could just tell you that the reason. I mean, we have a thicker floor pack, and that's why we were
Why do you
requesting.
need a thicker floor pack?
Again, it's customary to put the lowest structural member at DFE, so we like to drop the floor girder.
But I'm just saying that everybody else has built it at 13. Is there any unique reason other than you want to?
It's
thin
not
floors are in fact.
Yeah, it's not. Frankly, it's not a unique reason. We could make it work at 13. We would require more piles to do that.
Because at 13, in my mind, it's a non-event, the application. Everything else is the minimum.
Yeah,
That's just me.
that's understood. I mean, again, frankly, we could make it work at 13, just to be frank. So if that's where the board is, we'll certainly be able to do that.
If you're agreeing on that, then I think the rest of the application is granted.
Well, let's hear what they are.
You got
No, you gotta hear it.
Yeah, they must be. This is, let's just double check.
We have any precedent on the FAR, dude?
Yes, there's precedent, that's 40.4, 41%, 41.87%, 39.5%, so it's all around.
That's what the spreadsheet shows, all the precedences of the FAR, as well as everything highlighted in red is exactly relevant to what this application is requesting regarding the setbacks.
Okay, so you're okay, Ms. Winkler, with modifying the call of the
Yes,
application?
of course.
Oh, yeah, the spreadsheet. Did you make the spreadsheet?
Of course.
Very good. I couldn't do it. Can you make a spreadsheet?
Yeah, I'll show you some.
All right, I'm good.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this application? No? Any questions from the board? No? Take a motion?
I'll make a motion that we deny so much the application seeking 13.5 feet in elevation and grant 13 feet in elevation and grant the remainder of the application.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the modified application has been granted. Thank you.
Next one, she said. Application number 189-23, Howard and Vicky Raffleson. Permission to erect one-story dwelling leaving first floor elevation of 15.1 feet instead of permitted 14 feet, and to install mechanical platform leaving rear yard of 11.8 feet instead of required 15 feet, all having floor area ratio of 44.1% instead of permitted 30%. Residence BAA District, east side of Schooner Walk, 450 feet south of Central Roadway, Somerville.
Jamie Winkler, 474 Montauk Highway, West Islip. I'm representing the purchaser of this property, Howard and Vicky Rafelson. They are seeking to build a brand-new house on a double lot, a 120 across by 100 deep lot, and they are seeking a variance for excess FAR and only a rear yard setback for their mechanical system. And again, I am sure you would like Mr. Fluger to speak about the request for the height variance as well.
Take floor.
So on this one, yeah. This one actually is different than the previous application. Because this property is located in the coastal A zone, which I'm not sure if the board is familiar, but the coastal A zone does actually require VE zone requirements, which requires the lower structural member to be, very clearly above DFE. So in this case, we do actually need to have the floor elevation higher than what the code requests.
Wait, is there some sort of rule, regulation, law, statute
Yes.
that you are telling us that requires the floor elevation to be at 15.1 feet? Just, that's a yes or no. Is there some law that
Yes.
you're going to cite to us
Yes.
that says, look, it must be 15.1 feet?
Yes.
What is it?
Okay, so it gets a little bit into the weeds of the particulars of various codes, but I'll go through it as quickly as I can. So this property is located in.
Is it in your handout?
Yeah, it is in the handout. Yes, everything I'm about to say is in the handout. I mean, I could skip to probably one of the strongest points.
Our chairman is pointing out from your handout, Rule 322.3.2, elevation requirements.
Correct. That's from the New York State Residential Building Code.
I'm not an expert in this area of law, but first of all, it doesn't say 15.1.
No.
So
We get that.
how do we, listen to Mr. McCabe. How do we get there?
Yes.
Take us through why 15.1 and not 14?
Yes, all right. So the property is both located in zone AE11 and AE10. I know the zoning department in their denial, they wrote it up as AE10, but the AE11 line, if you look at our site plan, does hit the structure slightly. In my experience, which we've done many, many houses in FEMA zones, the plans examiners and the building department will consider this project in an AE11 zone, the more restrictive zone. So with an AE11 zone coupled with a coastal A zone, that makes our lowest structural member that needs to be at elevation 13, and then we're allowing 2.1 feet for the thickness of the floor system, which is pretty standard these days with the floor girder and the floor joist. And I do have a diagram on the second page depicting all of that.
So are you saying that you think the zoning denial was incorrect?
Yeah, I actually brought it up to Cassandra in zoning, and I don't think they were really familiar with the difference between what's technically called a special flood hazard area and a coastal high hazard flood area. We're in a coastal high hazard flood area, which is coastal A. So that was one point. And then she also just didn't think that the plans examiner would require this to be in AE10 because it was a very small sliver of deck and ramp that was hitting the AE11. But again, we've done many houses in FEMA zones, and we deal with the plans examiners all the time. I'm pretty sure that they're going to ask us to bring the house to AE11. And I should cite one other thing in the town code. This is number 4B in my handout on the first page. The town code 68-442D number 1. This actually also says the bottom of the lowest horizontal structural member supporting the lowest elevated floor, I'm paraphrasing here, is elevated to or above 2 feet above the base flood elevation so as to not impede the flow of water. So it does say elevated to or above 2 feet above the base.
Can I make a
flood.
suggestion?
Yes.
Because I don't know about the rest of the board, but I'm really not picking up all of it's just not an expertise that I have.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? If you look at the FAR, I'm looking at Ms. Winkler's spreadsheet, are these all within 500-foot radius? That's what we use.
Sorry.
Not Summer Club, a 500-foot radius.
I don't know, off the top of my head.
Do you have any precedent?
The precedent that I have doesn't go up as high as it's mentioned. There are a few, like 32 sloop walk and 34 sloop walk, which have shown FARs of 3.1 to 2.8. They don't have a breakdown of how it's being calculated, and they're before the zone, the code change, where things were calculated a bit differently. So I'm not confident if they're actually at a higher FAR than we would allow. The highest that I found that did have breakdowns I was able to figure out were just more recent,
Which
according
were?
to our codes, were 41.87, 41%, 39.2. There was one where it was a 45.3, but that was noted as a double count because it was a second story with like decking underneath. So that was a specific condition, but otherwise it was mostly around 41 and 40%.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a recommendation?
May I
The
speak also, too,
recommendation is for
before-
somebody to make the recommendation, please. Since there's a technical aspect to this that I just can't grasp sitting here, notwithstanding Mr. Fluger's explanation, certainly more knowledge on it. And second of all, we have an issue of where the FAR actually is. And I don't feel comfortable voting on it tonight. I don't want to do anything that would prejudice your client or prejudice the town's zoning. Why don't we adjourn so we can get some technical expertise from the town and share what they tell us with you, and also get a more definitive FAR? Otherwise, we're just guessing, and I don't want to guess and guess wrong.
Okay, since you asked a question of which houses have excess FAR within 500 feet, I'd like to just mention that, please.
Sure.
If you look on your map of Summer Club, number 24, that's named Terran, that is the same size property as the subject premises, and that was granted an excess FAR. Do you want to know the
What was
amount?
granted, but
Okay. 41.87. on number 24.
Wait, that's 41.87, that's 41, you're at 44.
Well, I'm just telling you, all the precedence is within, you want to know, all right, then forget that.
I
Go,
only care about what's 44.1 within a 500-foot radius. Once again,
okay, if you look to the east, to the right, number 34, Ortiz, that's 52.80. That is clearly within 500 feet.
yeah, but I think what Deidre was telling us is
That's not calculated.
it's calculated under an old calculation method. And if we bring it down to current calculations, it would yield a different number.
This
I
is why,
understand.
this is why the suggestion to possibly adjourn it so that we can get all of our information from the staff regarding the FAR and regarding the height of the building.
Well, Nick wants to speak again.
I mean, you wouldn't want us to deny the
Deny
application
without
based
having-
on
Of course.
inaccurate information.
I do just want to mention, because I actually did have a brief email conversation with Ms. Ryan about this. I actually looked at number 41 Sloop Walk, or East Walk it's also called, that had a 53.1%. Yeah. Correct, yeah, 53.1% FAR, and I did get a hold of that survey, and I broke down the house percentage and the deck percentage of what would have been counted at that time. I'm sorry, what would be counted at this time to today's code. So the FAR of the 53.1 breaks down to 19% of deck and 30% house. And there's about 4% left over that would not be counted in today's code. So the 19 plus the 30 plus the 4 gets you to 53. The deck percentage that we're asking for on this application is 15.26%, lower than 19. And the house percentage is 28.79%, again, lower than the 30% of that particular application. I just wanted to give you that information.
We adjourned it, you could give another spreadsheet, Ms. Winkler likes making spreadsheets.
Absolutely.
Set zeros right in on that, and this way we're all literally on the same page, not even figurative.
Great, yeah, I mean, I think that would be great.
So you're okay with an adjournment? Yes. All right, so take a motion for an adjournment.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
All right, second. All right, so application's been adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to put a date or?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Take 2 seconds, so. I'd like to hear this next application. Go ahead.
Taking a break.
Yeah, we'll take 2 seconds.
Yeah, we're just gonna,
We discussed this earlier. Oh, my God, I hate. Board's just going to take a quick 2-minute break.
It's just polite, Mickey, it's polite. We'll do it tonight. We can vote it tonight. No, the other one.
You mean the other one, that one? Yeah.
Okay, just vote it tonight.
Oh, I think you're talking about.
I'm talking about Russo. We can vote it tonight.
50 feet, to erect 6-foot fence leaving front yard of 0.5 feet instead of required 15 feet, to erect canopy over menu board leaving front yard of 12.1 feet instead of required 35 feet, to install site lighting, level seating, illumination level limits, and uniformity requirements, to install canopy light fixtures with color temperatures of 5,024 K, exceeding maximum permitted 4,000 K, and to install 2 facial signs where 1 facial sign is permitted. Business 3 District, northwest corner of Sunrise Highway and Belmore Avenue, Islip Terrace.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the board. My name is Hansley Mohan, Brown Altman DeLeo, 538 Broad Hollow Road, Suite 301 West, Melville, New York, 11747. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Bola EM Realty LLC, in connection with the requested area and sign variance relief for the property located at 3239 Sunrise Highway, Islip Terrace. With me tonight are Chris Tartaglia of High Point Engineering, the project engineer, and Amanda LaRosa of Stonefield Engineering, our traffic expert. Once our presentation is concluded, our experts are available to answer any questions that the board may have. Very briefly, the property is located at the northwest corner of Sunrise Highway's North Service Road and Belmore Avenue and is located within the town's Business 3 zoning district. The area surrounding the property is a mix of commercial and residential uses. To the north of the property, across Spur Drive North, are several residential properties. Abutting the property to the west and south is Sunrise Highway. Directly east of the property, across Belmore Avenue, is a gasoline service station with an accessory convenience store. To the south, across Sunrise Highway, is a coin and jewelry exchange. The property is approximately 48,953 square feet in area and is currently improved with a 2,180 square foot convenience store. As a part of the proposed redevelopment of the property, the applicant is proposing to expand and convert the existing convenience store into a 3,192 square foot Bola Market with a Burger King and drive-through service. On January 12, 2022, the Islip Planning Board granted our application for a planning board special permit for the convenience store and the required site plan modifications. On March 10, 2022, the Islip Town Board granted our application for a modification of prior covenants and restrictions and a town board special permit for a fast food restaurant. Copies of the planning board and town board resolutions have been submitted as Exhibit 1 in the packet provided. Tonight, Bola is requesting area and sign variance relief in connection with the proposed redevelopment of the property. With respect to the proposed variance to permit a front yard setback of 29.6 feet along Sunrise Highway, it should be noted that a greater variance was previously granted by the town board for this property in TC number 4774 in 2007. A precedent chart with all prior decisions has been submitted to the board as Exhibit 2. During the time when the town board granted area variance relief, the town board approved an arterial highway setback of 19.9 feet to the existing building where a minimum of 50 feet was required.
When was that?
In 2002. Given that the proposed expansion of the convenience store is set back 29.6 feet, we are requesting a less substantial setback variance compared to what was previously approved. As the town board determined in 2007, approval of such a setback does not adversely impact the adjacent properties, nor does it alter the character of the area. Given that the expansion is necessary for the operation of the drive-through, we submit that the benefit of this design cannot be achieved without the requested variance relief. A setback variance is also required to permit a 6-foot high fence with a setback of 6 inches at its shortest point and 8.4 feet at its longest point, where a minimum setback of 15 feet is required. As previously mentioned, the property is located near several residential properties to the north. Part of the proposed redevelopment of the property includes the installation of a white PVC fence along the northern, western, and part of the southern property boundary. The requested setback variance is largely due to the configuration of the lot and the proximity to the property line. As you can see on the site plan, the property line tends to cut inward and expand outward at various points. Thus, it is more of a condition of how the boundary line is drawn rather than the placement of the fence that necessitates the required relief. The fence, along with the tree plantings, are essential for shielding the activities of the property from the adjacent residences. Although variance relief is required, we submit that the benefit of the proposed fence will be shared by both the applicant and the nearby residential owners. In fact, during our public outreach efforts with the adjacent property owners, 2 of the nearby residents on Spur Drive North expressed support for the proposed project.
Could you tell us why you need the color temperature of 5,024, I don't know, is Kelvin?
Yeah.
Exceeding permitted 4,000 Kelvin. Why do you need that? I see the one below it is not seeking that. And help us out with Mr. Kelvin.
Sure. So with respect to that variance, as well as the variance for the light levels, those are more of a technical variance, so we would defer respectfully to Chris Tartaglia to come up to explain. I'm more than happy to hand the podium over if you'd like him to address it.
I think, yeah, to me, that's an issue I'd like to understand. The other things seem kind of rote. But
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Chris Tartaglia from the firm High Point Engineering, 1860 Walt Whitman Road, Melville, New York. With regard to lighting color and the lighting variations, very simple answer. The canopy that Hensley had mentioned previously was installed about 12 or 13 years ago. We were not proposing to modify the canopy, so the lighting is also to remain. So those lights are not in conformance with 2023 codes, but certainly are
well, we're in 2023.
Understood.
So why did the town amend the code downward? I have to imagine it's for the surrounding residents.
Yeah, I think the short answer, Mr. Chairman, is the board would like to see those lights removed. Then those lights could be changed out with the 4,000 color temperature, and we could ameliorate that variance and remove it.
So you'll strike that?
We will, yeah, we can change the lights out, the existing lights, we can change them, and we can remove that from the variance relief collected.
So you'll go with 4,000 Kelvin?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, with the two facial signs?
Tell us the two facial signs are going to be where? I see the one.
Yeah, hope that's visible. If it's not, I have handouts of these that I could pass up, but looking at the board. The Golden Market sign is Golden Entry, and to the left side is the Burger King sign, which advertises the food counter inside. I think as Hensley mentioned, that's been relief that's been granted by this board previously, and certainly it advertises the goods and services therein.
And the ground sign is compliant?
Yeah, that, it is compliant. It's been the subject of a prior variance as approved by this board.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this application?
How you doing? Chip Knott, 2523 Spudge Drive North. I'm right behind that facility right there. I just had a question. You answered the one question about the lights, so I guess they're lowering them, which is a good thing. We just want to know where the signs are going to be. The signs, the mobile sign,
If you could please.
the Burger King sign.
No, the ground, I think, oh, the facial signs?
Yeah, the face, like the road. I don't want to be sure that I have the higher ends right behind it. And I don't want to be woken up at 2 a.m. with chicken fries. You know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Anything else? Just a chicken fries?
Just a chicken fries.
I have the only high ranch in the middle of this thing, so
No,
everybody else is
understood.
low ranch. So, my kids will love it, but not me.
So if I just could point out on the screen, so that the two signs on the building are going to be located here. They're going to be facing east only. They're flush mount to the face of the building. You're back here? Yeah.
Oh, so you won't even see it. Right? There ain't gonna be no signs there.
Facing north.
Wait, guys. Just one at a time, please.
So to answer the first question, yeah, no signs will be facing north.
And the one will be facing east and one will be facing south?
That's correct.
When you say south, what do you mean south?
Sunrise Highway.
Towards Sunrise Highway.
Yeah, facing south.
And you lowered the wattage of the lights and everything. I'm not going to get
4,000. Not even 4,001.
All right.
Ma'am, did you have anything? No? Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this application? No? All right. So first we have to modify the call?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to
No, we're just
modify the
denying.
call?
Or just deny it?
Just tonight. Okay, that's right. Okay. So you want to make a motion then?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we deny so much of the application seeking 5,024 Kelvin with respect to canopy light fixtures, and grant the remainder of the application.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the modified application's been granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
On the next one. And change the boards. Application number 191-23, Bola EM Realty LLC. Permission to install 8 fuel dispensers instead of permitted 6. To install ground sign having sign area of 60 square feet with gas price section of 30 square feet instead of permitted sign area of 48 square feet with gas price section not to exceed 6 square feet. To install 6 facial signs on building where a maximum of 4 facial signs are permitted, and to install 3 gas canopy signs where a maximum of 2 gas canopy signs are permitted. Business 3 District, southeast corner of Suffolk Avenue and Wicks Road, Brentwood.
Good evening, everybody. For the applicant, David Altman from the law office of Brown, Altman and Leo LLP, 538 Broad Hollow Road, Suite 301W, Melville, New York. Also with me here this evening is Chris Tartaglia from High Point Engineering, who is our project civil engineer and just testified in the prior case. And Amanda LaRosa, our traffic engineer from Stonefield Engineering. She is here with me as well. If you take a look at the aerial photo on the screen directly in front of you, what you see there today, assuming this board in its infinite wisdom decides to grant the variance relief requested by the applicant here this evening, that will not be there in the near future. The applicant is going to do a complete raise and rebuild of this particular site. And just to put a little bit in perspective, where the existing building is about 11,200 and some odd square feet, the existing building will be less than 50% of that at a little over 4,200 square feet. That being said, the property is located at 400 Suffolk Avenue in Brentwood, New York. It's owned by Suffolk County Tax Map Number District 500, Section 136, Block 3, Lot 38.1. The property was recently rezoned from Business 2 to Business 3 pursuant to Town Board Resolution TC 5385, granted on December 16th of 21. Property is located at the southeast corner of Suffolk Avenue and Wicks Road. The site itself, as a gasoline service station with convenience and, to mention, fast food restaurant, part of the relief granted by the town board in December of 21 included a special use permit for fast food restaurant drive-through. That is a component of this application as well. There will be a Burger King drive-through, which will be entering off the east side of the property off of Wicks and then wrapping around the south side of the new building. In fact, actually, I might point to the other side of the left. Around the south side of the building here is the convenience store building. The window here, water main here, a dual truck capacity of up to 13 cars, wrapping around the west side and then exiting out either back to Wicks north or at the Suffolk Avenue on those. Right now, the property was at least 4 curb cuts. We're reducing them to 2 right in, right out only on Wicks, right in, right out only on Suffolk Avenue.
Mr. Altman.
Sir.
Thank you. I'm not the chairman.
Mr. Wexler, thank, I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah. Tell us you're seeking 8 pumps instead of 6.
Yes, sir.
Fuel dispensers. Has the town engineering reviewed that to make sure there's proper turning and ingress and egress? Has the town reviewed that?
So the answer to your question is yes, quite thoroughly. I will note for the record, when the applicant originally submitted an application and we were toe dipping with the town, the application proposed 10 pumps. At planning's request and with engineering's input, we reduced to 8 pumps. And if you look at the site plan in front of you, given this overall size of the site at 72,107 square feet, with frontage on Suffolk Avenue of 234.6 feet, 8 pumps, which is 4 rows of 2, is modest in nature. And I say that for a reason, Mr. Wexler, in that you have 50 feet of clearance to the east, and you have 77 feet of clearance western pumps and the berm. That is significant space on-site traffic circulation. In addition, you have 42 feet between pumps for passing. So this is more than you typically see in terms of additional configuration where you might see 32 to 34 between pumps. This site lays out really well. To the extent the board, if you have any technical questions on that regard, certainly Mr. Tartaglia can address those.
What is there now? What is there existing?
This was recently, I believe, a Family Dollar store.
Okay.
The Family Dollar store, their lease ended July of last year. The site is currently vacant, and, speaking personally and in following several phone calls with the current owner, Bola is a contract vendee here, this site is beyond an attractive nuisance. The issues of people dumping on this site and actually living on this site have been legion. The police are called routinely to clear the site. So, we want to get through this process as quickly as possible and get construction underway because it has become really an attractive nuisance.
Just as an observation, isn't there a full-on Burger King maybe half a mile to the east?
I don't believe so. If there is, I'm not aware.
On Suffolk Avenue?
Yeah, I'm not aware of it being that close.
There is, maybe a mile?
Yeah,
I could be-
It has to be more, and I'll tell you because Burger King wouldn't allow anything that close.
It's pretty close, but,
So,
okay.
Additionally, something that I think we've been stringent on in the past is the canopies. 2 is permitted. Why the 3rd canopy?
So right now you have a proposed canopy sign, which will be facing southbound or northbound way traffic. There's another one on the west face rather, eastbound traffic on Suffolk. And then you have another canopy sign proposed on the north station and southbound traffic coming down. And again, given the complexity of this intersection, which is substantial, it makes sense from a safety perspective to provide as much and sufficient time as possible for motorists to make their turn.
Have we granted, Mary or Judy, have we granted many 3 canopy signs?
Not that I remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Ground sign also help with any traffic that's coming from the south.
Well, the ground sign itself, which is what's proposed here, is fairly modest again for this size site. I'll note again for the record, given the site has 2 rather extensive
So I
frontages.
don't mean to interrupt you, but there's going to be 3 canopy signs and 1 ground sign?
One monument style sign, sir. Yeah, it's not going to be the traditional pole mounted sign at 15 or 20 feet in height.
I'm thinking 2 and a ground sign would really work well there.
We're okay with 2 canopy
Yeah.
signs, if that is the board's desire. But I don't think it's an over-signing of the site. I think, again, given the size of the site, it
The
makes
real
sense.
chairman just pointed out to us that the application is 6 facial signs.
Well,
Right, that's the
different-
Burger King,
different.
that's the Bola. Then
That-
you have the canopy signs,
And then you have the ground.
and then you got the ground signs.
So we'll get to that if I may.
You got way too many signs.
Well, if you look at your precedent chart, and we're happy to reduce the canopy signage to 2, so that's
So
not
if
an
you
issue.
reduce the canopy.
Not an
sign
issue.
I'm
To
sorry?
2, to 2, to be compliant.
From 3
To
to
2,
2.
not a problem.
And then you have 4 facial signs permitted, and there's all 3. 6 facial signs. Do we, once again, do we have any with 6 facial signs?
We do, and if you look at your precedent
Well,
chart
I'm
that I
not
submitted.
talking to you, I'm talking to Deidre.
It's usually with the Bolo ones because they do have the line placard.
Correct,
next to the
right.
sign, and those aren't really signs stating anything.
Right, it's a
So
line.
that's kind of where we do go a bit over.
Are these decisions all boulders?
They are.
Have we granted 6?
Yeah.
You have, for 700 Motor Parkway, it appears that 6 were granted.
6 facial signs.
The original. I have only the other, the previous application.
Here, you want mine?
I'll share with
And then they have been granted this, one's in Hopwood, so it's a bit farther away, the other one is in Brentwood. But it's, again, it's because of the Lion placards that are going on here, so they're not really
Right.
signs that are saying anything.
By the way, the
Not
Lion
great.
placards, if I may, they're precast, non-illuminated signs, so at night you don't see the middle.
All right.
So what we.
And bearing in mind, again, the character of this area is entirely commercial. in
Yeah,
nature,
Sunrise
right?
Highway.
Yeah, there's no residents affected here.
Something Avenue, I'm sorry, something.
So we're reducing the gas canopy signs to
From
2?
3 to 2, correct.
Everything else is, any other questions from the board? Now, is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this application? No? Get a motion?
Yeah, sure. I'll make it.
Brentwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we deny so much of the application seeking 3 canopy signs and grant 2, which is per the code, and grant the remainder of the application.
Second? All in favor? Aye. All right, so the modified application's been granted.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Good luck. Thank you.
Application number 192-23, Brooklyn Timber LLC. Permission to leave 2-story dwelling having front yard of 49.9 feet instead of required 70 feet. Residence AAA District, southeast corner of Lincoln Boulevard and Hancock Place, Hopwood.
Good evening, all. For the applicant, Daniel Baker of Greenberg Traurig, 900 Stewart Avenue, Garden City, New York, 11530. We are here tonight on behalf of Brooklyn Timber LLC, seeking an area variance to maintain an existing, almost complete 2-story dwelling so that it will have a front setback of 49.9 feet instead of the required 70 feet per the code.
I'm sorry, you said almost completed?
Almost completed.
Okay.
Yeah, which I think is key part of the application. This property was the subject of an application in 2014, which the board approved the variances for. Those 2 variances were for having the dwelling on a lot having a width varying between 71 feet and 125.82 feet instead of the required 150, and having a second front yard of 35 feet instead of 50. Those variances were granted. I guess there were some issues afterward. Ultimately, everything was settled, approved, and in 2021, the board extended the 2014 approval for 6 months. At that point, a building permit was applied for and issued. The building commenced. They have, in fact, I do have some photos of current conditions that I will hand up.
What happened over the last 6 years? Why wasn't it completed? Did we grant?
You did grant, but I believe there were some issues the applicant had.
When you started construction, you had legal permits to do so?
Absolutely. Building permits right here.
What were the issues that they had? Well, I want to find out. I mean,
Well, in any
it's
event,
not often, we'll have to find out. I'm just curious. They get a zoning board approval, and then 6 years later, somebody says, oh, there were some issues.
Well, I understand that there was, I believe, some litigation. I was not involved. My firm was not involved, but there was
You
litigation.
must have some idea what it was. You can confirm what you-
I don't think the applicant was necessarily happy with the decision, but ultimately came back and there was a decision on that matter.
So,
And
I
everything
guess-
was put back into the board's hands. And the,
Well, we want to find out what's being put back into the board's
Mr.
hands.
Wexler, I wish I could give you some more, but I don't have any. I don't know that the secretary to the board can help, but a permit.
That's your
was-
job.
I'm tired of helping all you guys.
That's your job. So-
Mary's got double time.
Yeah, right. So.
No, I'm teasing. I can help.
I'm trying to find out, is this the same application?
Let me explain. So the case was before us in 2014 for two variances that you don't see listed here because we granted them and
Okay.
subsequently a building permit was issued. Let me correct that. More recently, a building permit was issued. Back in 2014, we granted the application for width of lot and for
Second front yard.
second front yard, because technically that's a paper street. The high tension wires running diagonal there are also running over the top of a paper street known as Hancock Place. So it's a very odd lot, and it's technically a corner lot. So the second front yard setback was obviously granted as well. The applicant in 2014 applied for the building permit, and the building plans were sent to the planning department for review for the whole house. The planning department believed that zoning left out a variance. The planning department wanted zoning to have applied a 50 or 70-year-old requirement in the code that says that, and the board has heard these cases only twice before, if more than 25% of the houses on the block have increased setbacks, then I believe it's the average of those setbacks shall apply as the minimum front yard setback.
That's correct.
I have 30 years of experience in zoning here in this town, and I had never seen it applied until recently in the past 2 years, two times, one time each year maybe. So, okay, that was when the lawsuit was possibly going to commence for the town's denial to issue the building permit because the plans came back from planning saying that this third variance needed to be considered. The attorney for the applicant at that time, and the applicant is the same applicant as in 2014, the attorney for the application at that time was one Richard Shire, and he was all too happy on behalf of his client to try to sue the town. I think
Rather than hopefully get a
for
simple
not
variance.
issuing, for not issuing the building permit, he had more experience than I in dealing with zoning in the town of Islip, and he had never seen that section applied.
Right.
So,
Somebody going to be threatening Article 78?
he was threatening to sue the individual personally, as you know, he was wont to do. So rather than pursue it, I imagine that the contract, if there was one, fell through and the market changed and the house didn't get built. More recently, the market had been quite strong, and I imagine a contract became available again, and the applicant, without counsel, because he's deceased, decided to try to get a building permit again. He asked our board for an extension of time, which we granted with caution, saying that there will still be a third variance required.
And they're seeking the third variance. Right.
The building permit got issued based on our extension of time of our two variances that we granted in 2014. And the house got built, and now there's discussion of that third variance. in
Is
the
the
building
third variance what you say that you have, it's a 70-year-old statute that we never see?
Correct. But it is, I think, personally, I think that part of the problem with its application now is that these numbers are obtainable through GIS technology. So now we can all do it. We're all staring at the aerial and we're all looking at the front yards up and down Lincoln Boulevard. You can click and drag and click again and get a front yard setback for all of those houses. Can you imagine somebody in 1970 doing that?
No.
So it was impossible to apply. So therefore it never got used. It
My-
should have
my-
been removed from the code.
Keep Mr. Baker from getting a CO, right?
Is that why you're here today?
Well, ultimately, we'll need this for a second.
My biggest question was, when they commenced the construction, they had legal town permits.
They had a permit, yeah.
Yes, I just handed the permit.
Yeah, that was my.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to, that's why I was asking the questions, what happened?
Yeah, so,
I got you.
right, so,
Do you have anything on
one,
this?
one, those were the issues,
One
and
second,
two,
sir.
that was a great job by
Thank you, Dan.
Sarah to
Thank you. You're welcome.
That's why we keep her
speak
around.
everything I had here. Thank you.
The only thing I would like to say, is there are two precedents actually that were granted a while ago for front yard setbacks of 34 and 40, which I believe would be.
And to be clear, those were 34 instead of 50, not 34 instead of 7.
And I also have three here that I know of that are 50, 50, and 41.9. And if you just look at the aerials, you can see that there are probably a bunch more.
All right. Any more questions for the applicant?
Or me.
Or Mary.
Or the secretary? Is there anyone else that would want to be heard on this application?
I'd make a motion, we approve the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, application is granted. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Co-counsel, thank you.
Just old, that's all.
Sure she doesn't get paid Greenberg rates.
You should.
All right, I'm not helping the next case. Just saying. Application number 193-23, KMM Property Solutions, Inc. Permission to erect two-story dwelling on lot having area of 9,066 square feet instead of required 11,250 square feet, and having building envelope less than twice the area of the proposed building footprint, leaving floor area ratio of 30.78% instead of permitted 25%. To maintain 55.43 cubic yards of surplus fill within the floodplain, to create artificial slope of 14.6% instead of permitted 5%, and to install driveway having slope of 12% instead of permitted 8%. Residence A District, west side of Bayview Avenue, 93.7 feet north of Harriet Road, Bayport.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Richard Tripakowski, agent for the applicant, 173 North Main Street, Sable, New York. This property request is unique as it has been single and separate throughout zoning changes. The lot size required relief was granted to 174 Bayview, and it conforms to the characteristics of the immediate neighborhood. The FAR at 30.76 is a minimal relief. The proposed home is minimal in size and conforms to the characteristics of the neighborhood.
Are the characteristics of the neighborhood 30.76?
Yes.
We have precedent for that?
There's a multiplier at 30%. It's just, they don't have the 0.76, but there's multiple at 30%.
Thank you.
I'm going to refer to our engineer to regard the other things, the reliefs. Jackie from Key Engineering.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jacqueline Peranto, Key Civil Engineering, 664 Blue Point Road, Holtzville, New York. To reiterate a little bit of what Rich had indicated, 3 of our variances are strictly connected to our lot size. The lot size minimum required 11,250. This property is 9,066 square feet. So just looking at some of those other code requirements, such as our lot occupancy, we would be in compliance if we had the minimum lot size of 11,250. Similarly, the building envelope variance that we're seeking is also a function of that lot size. So those are the 3 dimensional variances that we're seeking. The other ones are relating to fill in a flood zone. The front portion of the property, about 30% of the front portion of the property, is located in an AE5 zone. And I do have a site plan that I can put up for the board, but I assume everybody's received copies of the site plan, grading plan, and building elevations. Okay.
When you say put up, do you mean you have a board?
I do. Would you prefer that I present that?
How does everybody feel about that? You want to open up these 24 by 36s, or would you rather see it on a board?
So, this line that's above the property here, so this is the flood zone. The front portion of the property is what's located in the AE5 flood zone. Groundwater is also 2 foot 7 inch below grade. So our challenge on this property is to fit our sanitary system, our new IA septic system in our front yard. So that in lies our need for fill. It's a minimum amount of 55.43 cubic yards of fill that's needed to raise the lawn in the front yard in order to accommodate the sanitary system and the leaching rows, which we do have a low profile sanitary system that we're proposing. In addition, the slopes that we're seeking a variance for in the front yard are the slopes beyond the sanitary system, which exceed the 5%. And the last item that we're seeking a variance is in the driveway apron. A maximum of 8% is permitted, and we are at 12%, and that is the apron. That's from the property line to the curb line. We are proposing drainage within the driveway, so all of our stormwater is captured and with the trench drain and collected into a drainage system.
The town code says 5% regarding the artificial slope, and you're seeking almost 3 times that at 14.6. Why, what is the rationale that the town feels that 5% is the maximum and you need to go 3 times that?
So that is in the front yard and also on the north side of the property. And the reason is the sanitary system is located in that area. So the sanitary system needs to be in an area that has no more than 5% in a flatter area, and then you're allowed to slope 15% beyond the footprint of the sanitary system. In addition, we're proposing a retaining wall on the front property line that is at a maximum of 18 inches.
I guess I'm just trying to find out if there's any detrimental effect either from you and or from Deidre or Mary. I just want to make sure it's not like saying the maximum bridge weight is 5,000, but we propose to run a truck that weighs 15,000.
Okay,
So I
understand your question now.
make sure that the 5%, because I don't understand why, is not for a very specific reason, that as you go above that, bad things can happen. I
Sure.
just don't know.
It's in an area that's landscaped. It's in the front yard. So I don't see that there is any impact to our neighbors in terms of the water runoff. We've received a few rounds of review from the town engineering department and have made some modifications to our design based on their input. The area that we're speaking about is in the front of the property. Specifically in this area, the area that has those slopes.
Can you show on what portion is on that?
Sure.
I can't see.
I would describe it as the front of the neighbor's home, would be the area where the slopes are.
So
Kind of
was
where
it the northeast?
Sir? Oh.
Northeast corner? Is that,
Northeast corner.
okay, thank you.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to find some clarification. Whenever an applicant is seeking 3 times what's permitted per law, I want to make sure, and I don't know if we'll find that out tonight, maybe we should have Deidre or engineering do some memo. I just don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, 3 times. If there's no impact and it has no effect, then the town, why did the town say 5%? Why didn't they say 50% or 80%?
To be honest, to me, it's an odd section of code that's only in this residential section. In a commercial property, you're allowed slopes up to 33%. So it is odd to me to have a requirement of a max of 5%. Many applications that I have exceed that requirement. It's mitigated with the use of retaining walls. So we do have a proposed retaining wall. We do have a proposed retaining wall along the east property line, which is the front property line. That retaining wall is at 18-inch high, which is the max permitted on a lot line. So to balance variances, a higher wall can be proposed to lower a slope, but we can't meet both of those requirements because we have a setback to the sanitary system, to a retaining wall,
Can you tell us of any other property in that area that has an 18-inch retaining wall? I mean, we see those up in the northern part of town, but this is Bayport. The sea level there is 0. So
We're actually in a flood zone. So the front lawn is in a flood zone
I know,
of
but
elevation 5
can
with
you
groundwater 2 foot below.
Listen to me. Can you show us or tell us any other properties that have an 18-inch retaining wall in front of the property? It just, but it's, but
I don't have that information at my fingertips. If it's
ma'am, just wait. Just let me finish. I have never seen that application. I've been on the board just about 15 years, so I've never seen that. So again, I've never seen it where you have 3 times the slope and then you have in Bayport an 18-inch retaining wall. My antenna is peaked. I just don't understand it. And sometimes when you have to get involved with drastic remedies to build on a property, maybe that's why the property hasn't been built and maybe it shouldn't be built. I don't know. I just want to make sure personally that I don't grant something that creates problems all the way around. And I just don't have the knowledge.
So to address your concerns, I would say that, in my opinion, the house is of modest size. It's small relative to homes within this neighborhood. I think it fits with the characteristics of the neighborhood. It fits within the size of the property. Because of the groundwater elevation and the flood zone and the need to comply with Suffolk County Health Department requirements for the new sanitary system that's required is what's driving the grades of the front lawn. And as a result of those grades is where the retaining wall and the slopes are coming from. I can offer that the retaining wall we're proposing along the north property line wrap around we're proposing on the east property line, wrap around to the north and extend for the 18-inch, which will reduce that slope, but it will still exceed the 5%.
You may not be the right person to ask this, but the KMM properties, those are the people that are going to be living on this property?
They are. So KMM is a real estate entity in which the property was purchased, but Jim is the owner of that, and this house is being constructed for his daughter. So this is going to be used as a single-family residence. This is not a developer. This is not a flip home. This is their home.
Thank you. Well, we need to, one at a time.
Any more questions? Speaking.
No.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So the retaining wall isn't going along the full entire front of the property?
It's the front being the east
Right.
side, yes. It does not wrap to the north,
But it's the length of the east.
but it is the length of the east.
Because it's showing that it stops 8.6 feet from the northern property line.
Yeah, it slightly does. I'm sorry,
So it's just gonna be kind of like the land moving up towards the house for that slope?
So the lawn, for the most part, is level at around elevation 6.2. That's the grade above the sanitary system. Then there's a couple of steps to get to the front, the house, which is set at 8.5. So from the edge of the sanitary system, it starts to slope off to meet the existing grade in the right-of-way, which is around 4. So it goes from elevation 6 to elevation 4. So in the front, we do have that retaining wall, which is what's giving us that max of that 14% in the front there. And then as it goes around towards the north, it's tapering to meet the existing grades of that lot line. So we can extend that retaining wall the additional 8 feet to get all the way to the northern lot line, and we can return it along that common side lot line, which is the north side of the property.
I don't know if that's better. I was just wondering
Yeah.
what that would look like, because it's not like a continuous wall. It is.
Right, the neighbor's property is about 2 foot lower.
Okay.
Again, just pardon my ignorance, because we know Bayport, and there are no retaining walls in Bayport. So you need the retaining wall because you have to bring in the fill because
The sanitary system needs to be set 2 foot above groundwater. And the sanitary system is a linear leaching row. So it's a very shallow 11-inch profile leaching row. So it's as shallow as they make in terms of the sanitary leaching, and there's a
What does
minimum of
everybody
12
else-
inches of cover.
What does everybody else do in that area? I mean, I live.
I don't have any other clients on this
So-
block to
So
answer how.
maybe, Jackie, maybe you can explain to the board what the new IA systems
Sure.
do and why they're more space intensive.
Sure. So most homes may have the older conventional system. This system, an IA septic tank, it's an innovative and alternative septic tank. It has an additional tank within the septic unit that has a pump that cycles the waste and creates a anaerobic process which removes nitrogen from that waste product. It then discharges it into a leaching field, similar to a typical system where it could go to a leaching pool. These are going to leaching rows, and then that waste is discharged into the ground. So the system, it's a 3-bedroom home, so it's actually your smallest size system that the health department permits. So again, it being a modest home, it being the smallest system, it has to be located in a front yard in accordance with health department requirements. It cannot be located in a driveway. So we have utilized the front yard for this system, and I can pull that drawing up if you'd like. The sanitary plan was actually requested to be removed from the town set that I submitted. So,
Can
and
it
the
go in the
sanit,
south portion of the front yard?
I'm sorry,
Can it go southern on the front yard?
no, and we do have a green image plan that's submitted, and so if you can see here, so this is the septic tank that's located at this end of the lawn. These are the leaching rows that are right here. They have to be 4 feet spaced apart, they have to be 4 foot wide. They are required 2 of the rows in 1 expansion row, is what's required by the health department. The minimum of 10 foot from the row to the retaining wall, 5 foot to a property line. Same requirements here. There's a minimum of 10 foot from my septic to my other property line. So this area of my front lawn, basically, this footprint here, you know.
And the slope is the whole front lawn?
The slope is going from this structure sloping down.
Yeah.
So there's a ridge line right here, and then from there to the retaining wall is a 15% slope. So it's happening within about 7 feet of the front property line. is where that slope is happening.
So the
lawn
slope,
is flat, and then it's sloping.
so it slopes away from the home.
Correct.
Doesn't that create an issue for us, for the neighbors?
I don't believe it will.
Why not? Where does that water go?
Hold on, do you want to speak into the microphone?
Yeah. I mean, my limited engineering.
Sure,
It flows down.
It does, water does flow down, yes. But it is flowing on a surface that's pervious, so the lawn will allow water to infiltrate in.
But
There'll be a
let's
low
say-
point in the
okay,
lawn to
let's
allow the
say-
water to pond and.
Let's say your hypothesis is incorrect and the water is not totally absorbed by the lawn.
No, so let me back up a second. In the town of Islip, when you develop a residential property, you're only mandated to capture and collect the stormwater from roofs and paved surfaces. So lawns in every neighborhood and the town of Islip discharges onto the neighbor's property, onto the street property, onto their
I
driveway.
understand that, but we
There
don't
is
have
no
many
drainage
15%,
required for lawn.
But we don't have many 15% slopes. That's, or retaining walls. That's my concern. I don't want to set up a problem.
The retaining wall.
Hang on. I don't want to set up a problem.
I'm addressing your answer, I'm
I know, but
addressing your
you still haven't
question.
let me finish.
So there is a lip, is what I would define it as, on the inside of that retaining wall. So water is not cascading over it. It's being collected along the inside edge of it.
Okay, I understand, and you're an engineer, so obviously you know more than certain I do on this. However, many things look elegant on paper, and then they don't work out. So I would feel more comfortable if we had some sort of study by the town engineering department to make sure that they say yes.
I have a
We-
letter from your town engineering department that says that once I get my variances, I upload in and I get a permit. Would that be something you'd like?
Sure,
I'm
I'd like
surprised
to-
you haven't seen it.
Don't be so surprised.
It's an email from Tanner. It's dated September of 2022. Reviewed the revised plan. I have one comment. It's in regard to my paver apron detail. The engineering approval will be held in abeyance pending those ZBA variances. If granted, please upload the ZBA documentation to the permit portal. Submit a community improvement fee of $1,500 to engineering.
Right, but they're waiting to hear from us.
Regards-
Really, I want to hear from them, because I'm not an engineer.
Okay, so Tanner obviously isn't here this evening, but he did review these drawings. He did provide comments. We responded, and we got to the point of no further comments from engineering. So that is my take of engineering has accepted and approved these drawings.
I think they're just worried about the safety and how it'll affect the other areas around it.
Right,
And
so-
I know that you're saying that like the retaining wall has the lip to catch the drainage and everything like that, but the retaining wall isn't creating a bubble around this one property that's allowing nothing to affect any other outside areas. And even up the driveway, you're proposing a 12% slope for the driveway, correct?
Just the apron. There's a
Right.
trench drain proposed at the bottom of the driveway along the property line. So the water's being captured.
There's not usual variances that are requested, so I think that that's where the hesitation is that this is not, there's other homes that are being engineered and they're not asking for these either. These are like the first time we're kind of seeing these, and I think that's just the hesitation. Tanner gave you the denial to get the variances that he wants to see, but that's not his approval that once you get them, you're A-okay, everything's gonna be given to you in a week. He still wants to review and see everything that you're proposing. So you saying that like.
No,
if get approved of this,
I
I'm gonna
believe
get
him,
voted
I
for.
believe that he has already reviewed those. I mean, again, I'm not going to speak
But I
for
think
him,
we-
but that was my understanding from prior
I think
conversations.
we should get some finality to that, because often the engineering department will say, well, if zoning board wants to grant it, we don't know which is the more closer, or Hugh's closer to what's accurate. So we should really hear from.
My
Yeah.
understanding is we wouldn't be here tonight if we didn't get to that point. So,
That's accurate.
thank you. And I've spent a long time on that. It's been a long road to get here tonight, quite frankly. So,
Was that road sloping, or was it?
no, it was an uphill
Why?
climb.
Very
I
good.
do have a little technical question there that's of interest, because lately there's been a recent discussion about whether the zoning board can waive the requirements in the subdivision and land development regs. This board obviously believes that they can, and zoning is comfortable in cooperation with Tanner writing them in so that so you don't have to go before the planning board to
Right.
seek waiver. But you did mention that the slope of the driveway only exceeds in the right of way. So I'm not sure this board even has jurisdiction for off-property modifications. Wouldn't you agree, everybody?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
So
outside-
if,
it's outside the
that's
confines of the
that's
property.
just an aside, something I just picked up while you were speaking.
Sure.
If it's truly the apron, only the apron, and it's truly forward of the property line and between property line and edge of pavement, I'm not sure how this board has any jurisdiction, but that's just
Right.
an aside. Because it's just
And
helping us with
I
the
actually
debate.
did initially itemize those as planning department variances, and he clarified that it would be the zoning board that would hear those items.
Well, that we
are in
can,
the-
that we
in the-
can,
In
so-
the land use regulations.
I
like
think
what-
they're just trying to help you with one-stop
Yeah.
shopping.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that we can grant anything in the right of way. That would be certainly in the purview of the planning board, though, to waive a sidewalk, et cetera. We couldn't do that.
Okay.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this application? Could please step up one at a time?
Hello, my name is Michael Sheehan. I live at 192 Bayview, which is actually right on the north side for where their slope is running the water into my property.
Could you point out, I'm sorry, sir, which is your?
Right there.
Okay, thank you.
That is really my biggest concern, is the fact that they're going to have their water as they sit on top of the hill running into my property. They don't have a basement. I do. I have a crawl space there, which stores all of my stuff. So if that gets damaged, all my stuff gets damaged. And as you know, because we're very close to the bay, the water levels are very high. My yard is already soggy at certain points. So now I can only imagine after runoff of how much water, how bad it's going to be. The other thing that I'm glad they spoke about, I haven't seen any plans or anything. We just got a letter in the mail a week ago. So,
That's what the law requires.
but I
Well,
was
why don't you
wondering what
address
the-
us?
I was wondering what the square footage is of what they're proposing.
Of the structure?
Yes, of the house.
It's roughly around 3,000 square feet, 2,700 square feet.
Okay, because they say it's in line with what's in the neighborhood. And I have square footage on the same amount of acres that they have. And 187, 1,328, 193, 1,750, 192, which is me, 2,000, 175, which is 1,600, 139, which is 1,800. I could keep going if you want. The house is way out of line with the neighborhood. Another concern I have is since they're building it so far up, I have a sight line from my bedroom to the bay. Well, that sight line will be gone because I'll be staring in whatever room that is that's built up there, so.
David, do you have the signs on the houses? The side of the houses on
Not necessarily the houses, like wasn't an FAR in
Right.
the.
Okay.
I mean, the FAR is letting have over 30%, so I don't know the exact square footage. The houses to the north are all part of also ZBA decisions, so they're all around the same one area.
Okay.
But that's.
Yeah, the FAR is not out of line. When the applicant or their engineer was telling us about the homes are in line, what I believe she was referring to is we use FAR.
Okay.
Foot area ratio. And we allow up to 30%. The code says 25. We allow up to 30. And they're seeking 30.76, which is not way out of line. I don't know if there's precedent. If there's not, my intention would be to keep it more at 30%. But that's what the applicant's engineer was referring to was within what we deal with, it was in line. I get the homes are a lot smaller, but those homes can be bigger. That's what she was referring to.
I got you.
So.
Because from what I gathered though, from their zoning and their lot size, they're looking for over 20% more square foot from what the zoning allows.
Well, we allow up to 30%.
Okay.
They want 30.76.
Okay.
So it's not that much.
Yeah.
And if we decide not to, and I'm only just speaking for myself, if we decide not to grant it, we would grant 30% because we do that across the board
Yep.
a million times a year. So that's what she was saying. It's not out of line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything
you.
else, sir?
No, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Hold on. Let this gentleman speak, please.
I was just gonna clarify.
It's what, 2782?
It's the GFA, so it's both floors, it's not the footprint.
Correct, and the elevation is 33.4.
Wait, sir, you need,
Hold on,
sir,
My
If you could
apologies, my
you need to
apologies.
address us.
Give
My
us
name
your
is
name and
Michael
address.
Placenti. I live at 235 Edgewater. I am the house in the back.
Okay,
Right behind it?
Yes.
okay.
So as I said, the elevation is a concern. As the gentleman just mentioned, Michael, the house is 7 feet higher than anything in the neighborhood, even my home, and mine's fairly new, which is 25 and a half. So the concerns that he was saying in regards to his view, it would be impeded. Presently, the lot, which is now vacant, water pools within my property, as it is now. Needless to say, if they put the cesspool in and change the slope of the property, it's concerning, and also too, I wouldn't want sewage in my property as it is now. The back projection of the home is, as you mentioned, you will allow 30%, but it's 10 feet deeper. Plus, they will leave the house on the block.
But they don't need a variance for depth.
understand.
They-
I understand
They can do, they don't need it for that.
My true concerns are the height
Sure.
as well as the slope.
Yes.
Okay.
And how if that sewer was to run off like I have runoff right now, would that be in my backyard?
That's why you heard our dialogue.
Thank you.
We have concerns too.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Donna Placenti. I'm Michael's wife. It was my
Please state your
child.
address.
Excuse me?
Your address?
235 Edgewater Avenue. Let me just check that. This house is a little bit bigger than what we just, reconstruction on my childhood home. So I've lived in the neighborhood off and on since 1968. And the property after Sandy, after the inlet opened up, it floods more. And the backyard does flood a lot. To your point, you know, I wanted to make sure it was not a company buying it and overbuilding and selling it. So you guys hit on all the points I wanted to say. But I really think that it doesn't really fit. It's bigger even than our house that we just we fixed up. And our house is pretty big. So, you know, I mean, it doesn't, and that's, the property is, I think our property is 100, a little bit over 100 wide, and theirs is 75. So it's a big jump for the neighborhood, and it's going to look crowded. It's going to start looking like, you know, Flushing. So, you know, there's property that she mentioned, 174 Bayview. There's lots of lands that are wider that are still for sale. I think they chose to pick that lot because they can make it higher and see the water, but it would be, it wouldn't be good for us who are surrounding. So
Thank you.
that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else who would like to speak? Come on.
Sorry for the distraction with the baby.
No problem.
I'm Christina Pembroke, 204 Bayview Avenue, the lot that borders the empty lot just
To the
south
south.
of them. My concern is the flooding. It's flooded right now in front of that lot. My backyard is flooded. And with that elevation going up, it's certainly going to make it worse. And they're short over 2,000 square feet on the lot, which again, like Donna said, and the other neighbors, it's too high up and too big for that lot. If they want to build a house in compliance with the neighborhood and the codes, that's fine. But you can't, our houses and property can't be any more flooded than it already is. And that's my main concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
You're concerned about the flooding and the size of the house.
How could you tell? But
Did you write this?
Yeah, hang on, didn't Johnny Carson?
Danton Sedek, 193 Bayview, Bayport, New York, 11705. I live across the street, if you want me to point it out. Okay.
Yep.
So the flooding on the property wouldn't really affect me very much, but even just leaving tonight with all the rain that we've had, the street started to flood. And you slope the gradient, you know, I mean, right now, that lot is just a sponge. It absorbs so much rainwater. You start sloping it down, all of it's going to go to the street, and we just don't even have the infrastructure in the street to handle the water that we're already getting. So right in front of my house, there is a drain, and every year I have to call DPW to come by and fix the sinkhole that fills because the water that's coming in, it washes it away. So, I mean, you know, you're just going to increase the stress on the infrastructure around there. And I'm sorry, sir, you had mentioned you provide 30 ARF, I'm sorry? FAR, yes, FAR. And now, that was on, I'm going to assume, you know, I don't know what goes into your decision making. That was on lots that the house fit the lot size.
Across the board.
Right. This lot, like Christina just said, she's been here for 2 hours with 2 kids. Maybe we should send her home happy. I'm just saying. This lot size is 2,184 square feet smaller than what's intended. That's over 24% smaller.
But their 30% would be comparatively smaller.
Of course, yes, the 30% would be smaller, but, you know, I mean, now we're starting to talk on a smaller lot size, things are gonna look bigger, you know? At least that's what the math teacher in me says. So again, I don't know what goes into your decisions to deny or approve, but I would just say that to me, obviously to me, if you're gonna ask for special treatment, because that's what a variance really is, you should have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this cannot be done, or there's nothing reasonable that can be done except for what we're proposing, what, you know, and I just don't think that that has met that standard tonight. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else that would like to be heard on this application, sir? Please come up.
My name is Michael Majorano. I live at 175 Bayview Avenue. I respectfully disagree that the house is within characteristic of the neighborhood. There are no homes on the block that exceed 2,700 square feet. The one home that exceeds 2,700 square feet, the one home that is almost 2,700 square feet is also on a lot that's twice the size. It's on a double lot. I can assure you there are no 18-inch retaining walls anywhere in the neighborhood. I've lived there for 12 years. Walked my 3 kids around the neighborhood. Guarantee there's no 18-inch retaining walls anywhere. Anytime that we're going 3 times the allowed amount of a slope, of a grade, raises alarm to me. And I think that the board really needs to get a good look at why that's happening before anything is approved. The average house on Bayview Avenue, just for the board's own edification, according to Zillow statistics, is 1,821 square feet. This lot is is an average size lot on Bayview Avenue. There's a few that are smaller up north. The houses up north were built earlier in the 40s. The houses down south were built in the late 50s. Most of the lots down south are 0.19 to 0.20 acres. The ones up north are a little bit smaller, but this house is way bigger than anything characteristic of the neighborhood. I know it may be within the FAR, but it's not characteristic of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this application? The applicant, would you like to say anything?
If I can just address a couple of those comments. Just want to clarify, so the total gross floor area of the house is 2,782 square feet. The footprint is 1,824 square foot. So I just wanted to clarify that. And the 0.67% above the 30% that we were seeking in terms of the lot coverage equates to 65 square feet. So it's very de minimis in terms
So
of.
you could meet the 30%?
We could, it's requires all new architectural drawings to be drawn up for 65 square foot, which seems like a large effort. Unfortunately, the town process is such that full sets of architecturals are required to get to this point, as opposed to just a floor plan and elevations, which, would have been more beneficial to the applicant's pocket.
Is it a compliant neighborhood at 30% or less?
I'm sorry,
Is it
I
compliant?
didn't do research to the neighborhood, so I can't adequately answer your question about precedent, but I will be happy to do that before I come back before this board. To answer the questions about sloping and flooding and so forth, the areas that we're speaking about is in the northeast corner of the property. As I indicated earlier, we will propose retaining walls to mitigate any of those concerns, as well as to alleviate what those slopes will be. And we can bring that in conformance, if not in conformance, much closer to conformance. So we'll be happy to revise our application and present that back to the board. Any experiences that these neighbors are seeing today in terms of flooding has nothing to do with this development or this property. It has everything to do with the fact that they're in an area that has a high groundwater table.
But they're concerned this could exacerbate.
Our development will not exacerbate it. Our development will install drainage. It'll install leaching galleys. We're proposing leaching 20% above the code requirement for the roof and for the driveway. If I had to guess, those existing homes probably don't have drainage currently at all. So this is an improvement to the area. The last point I want to make is just in regard to the height of our structure. We are within code compliance on the height of the structure. So any views that may be lost is just the circumstance of a home being constructed on a vacant lot, which they were lucky enough to live next to for so long.
Thank No.
May I just add, please?
Quickly.
One thing to keep in mind here is everybody's saying, well, nobody has an 18-inch retaining wall or anything. But this is not a self-created hardship. This is due to the fact that they need the new drainage systems, the new septic systems, and it's the only way of making it work. The other houses was not required to have that. This is something that's a new compliance issue that they have, and it's the only way they have to do it. It is a single and separate property that they should be able to build something on, and they can't do it without doing something, without raising the grade level of the property.
Thank you.
No.
Sir?
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Can you make a motion? to
Yes,
reserve?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, so the application has been reserved.
Yeah. I think everybody's concerned that destroying the aquifer, that's the problem.
They're gonna try to push them on people.
Yeah.
Like if you're South Collapse, so he's the one who's going to make it put in the nitrogen.
That's it.
$25,000, ridiculous.
We had a meeting with the HOA down in Florida, and they said the cost of repair roof is all.
This last one, look at, they're at that lady.
Are now $30,000.
Okay.
And I said, what's life expectancy? And they said 25 years of the existing. And I looked over to my wife and I said, when was our house built? 21 years ago. You just ruined my evening. We're gonna get 30 years out of it.
How do the red tiles degrade after 30 years? What happens?
I think they may dry up.
It's gotta be better.
I know, but
We have our houses.
I think they must dry up and crack when they sit in that pool or something.
That was really That's really shallow.
All right, one more left.
So now the sanitary system is Oh, actually, there's two more left in.
We have two that we sent you.
Yeah, the one person's not coming, but the person who contacted arrived. And the last one.
They always act like, oh, look,
Hopefully, we're going to dispose of this old one. Okay. Application number 231-20, adjourned from March 10, 2020. AMK Homes Corp. Permission to leave enclosed porch having side yard of 7.7 feet instead of required 25 feet. Cellar entrance having side yard of 10 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 19 feet. Shed having front yard of 41.8 feet, and air conditioned units having front yard of 47 feet instead of required 55 feet each. To reconstruct driveway and parking area, leaving front yard occupancy of 60.4% of primary front instead of permitted 35, and to relocate 6-foot fence to second front property line, not having required setback of 10 feet. Residence AAA District, southeast corner of Washington Avenue and Rita Drive, Brentwood.
How you doing? My name is Marlon Mendez. We reside at 63 Washington Avenue in Brentwood, New York. So we.
How are you involved with the applicant?
I'm the owner.
Okay.
Both owners, yeah. We just want to get this fixed. We wanted to get the approval so we could set up and try to finish the whole application. I think the main issue here was the driveway. And I'm willing to work with whatever code or what's the max that I can try to get to fix the issue.
So the application was heard. March 10, 2020 is significant because it was our last public hearing before the pandemic. At that hearing on March 10, 2020, the board asked the applicant to come up with a better application specifically for the driveway. On March 12th, he met with zoning and came up with what he believed was his best shot at bringing down the front yard occupancy, and he brought it down to 60.4%. We didn't hear the application because we went into the pandemic, and that's really all I can say. It got hung up because it wasn't being motivated to move through the courts, and now the courts are active again, and the applicant's been told, get it done.
Get it done, get it.
So from my understanding is he's willing to reduce the 60.4% further to whatever the board would like.
Giving away 42%.
I think it's 42% is the number de jour.
45, it's 8:30.
So 42. Mr. Chairman, if I may inquire about the 7.7 feet instead of required for the enclosed porch.
So it's a very old house on a 50-foot wide lot.
How did it get there?
There's a prior approval that allowed the house to be there.
Okay.
But the house is, what year was it built, do you know?
I'm not sure. We bought it like that.
Yeah. And I think the structures in question, the enclosed entry is very small, right? It was just a little addition to the back corner of the house?
Yes.
So really, it's the front yard occupancy that's the issue here, and the 6-foot fence?
It has to be relocated. There is somebody that wants to be heard and who was at the hearing 3 years ago, so I appreciate that you waited through all that. Yeah, the 6-foot fence can go to the property line. It obviously can't stay in the right of way, so their only option is to ask for it to the property line. That's up to you.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, if we grant 42% FAR, front yard occupancy, and to relocate this 6-foot fence to the second front property line would be, where do they want to put it? I'm sorry.
I believe it's back here, right?
Yes. Deirdre, could you tell us the lot area of the parcel? I'm not sure.
I can see if it's on the land detail.
Yeah.
Also, Dietrich, is that a road to
Yes, it's very wooded, but that is.
do we have any 6-foot fences in that neck of the woods?
Not that were granted.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So then they'll have to make it 4-foot of comply, right?
It's fine.
This is what looking east down that road is.
Mhm.
It's just, there's not sidewalks, it's just very kind of wooded back there.
Is that the fence in question?
That's the fence in,
I think
oh,
it's been
okay.
replaced, right?
Yeah, it's PVC now, yes.
It's white PVC.
And what's the lot area, do we know? Is it over 1250?
The lot area shows as 10,890.
Oh, good. So then they're entitled to it. Yeah. So it's really only the front yard occupancy of 42% is the only issue.
Yes, that's what I recall, but like I said, there is somebody who wants to be heard.
Okay.
Who else would like to speak on this application?
Dinner now. Let's give up. Breakfast.
Hi, my name is Ethel Kostakevich. I live at 65 Washington Avenue. The reason I'm here is because that's a real estate that's trying to come in there. and they have half of the yard all blacktop and part of the front yard blacktop. They're asking about the sunroom. That's been on that house for years, and so is that back room. Been there for years. I know the house very well. I'm there for 40 years. But I don't think it's right. The whole thing is blacktop, and that's not a commercial area.
Well, that's our biggest concern also. Thank you.
And we're going to make them change that.
What?
They're gonna
We're
reduce
make
the
them
blacktop.
Reduce it.
Oh, boy.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this application? 3 years, that's not. All right, so then the only issue is, all right, so.
I mean, we can give them up, what do we usually give them?
42.
That's tonight, yeah, that's tonight.
That's it.
All right, so I'll take a motion to approve the application, except.
Yeah, why don't we, yeah, exactly. Why don't we deny so much of the application seeking 60.4 and grant 42% and grant the remainder of the application.
Okay with the fence.
And yes, and the fence, and grant the fence.
That's fine. We just want to close it up. Thank you so
That's
much.
I've got a motion, I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, so the
You
modified application's been granted.
You have to reduce the front yard occupancy. Everything else was granted.
Great. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, Christina. Well, the other one is not going to be. Yeah, no, yeah, he's just not going to be. Very unfortunate. Sure, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it. Okay, so we have 2 second calls. The first is not here. That's application number 173-23, Peter Hibbert Jr. Is anybody on that? No. The second call is application number 845-22. It's at the end of page 2. Adjourned from November 15, 2022. Michelle Aiello, permission to erect pavilion 14 by 16, leaving second front yard of 8 feet instead of required 27 feet. Residence A District, northwest corner of Keswick Drive and Tracy Lane, East Islip.
Okay, good evening. For the record, it's Christina Brabin, Morano Expediting, 2938 Hempstead Turnpike, Levittown, agent for the homeowner. So this application was before the board on November 15th, and we adjourned it at the advice of the board. We were asked to sharpen our pencils and be more in conformance. So the original structure was proposed as 15 by 20. We're now proposing 14 by 16. This is a pavilion. This is what the terminology of it is. An overall reduction now of 76 square feet. We no longer are requesting a height variance for 14 feet 6 inches. We are now 1.5 feet under the 14 max allowed at 12.16 feet. The front yard setback was proposed at 7 feet. We're now providing 8 feet. And this is no longer an enclosed structure. It is now open on 3 sides, completely open on the north and west elevation, and partially opened on the east elevation, partially because of the full fireplace chimney. So it's blocked part of the opening. And the south elevation is now the only closed wall.
What was the original request seeking?
We were seeking 15 by 20 with 14 feet 6 inches in height, so we needed a height variance. It was a larger structure, it was completely enclosed, and we were looking for 7 feet and with a second front yard setback.
Yeah, there was some discussion at the hearing of, the board was wondering why it was called a pavilion since it had 4 walls. Right?
Essentially, it was a pool house, and it was denied as a pavilion, and that just was not in keeping with the area, so we've gone ahead and reduced it significantly, opened up the walls. It's a true pavilion now, much smaller.
So when you say the south, because it's a triangle, it's a little confusing. You mean the wall that's facing Tracy Lane?
Oh, the south elevation of the structure.
Yeah, I
yes.
understand what the
Yes.
elevation is, but it's not exactly south because if you look at the orientation of the property.
Oh,
So you
gotcha.
mean the wall that faces Tracy Lane?
Yes,
So it's parallel with Tracy?
it's parallel with Tracy, yes. And that is called out as south elevation, just so you're aware of the construction. plans on page V2.
Would there anyone else here would like to speak on this application?
Jay?
Wake up.
So
Do you
just,
have any questions from the board?
if everybody just wants to look at the, I think you all have elevations. It's the wall that's solid is the wall that's closest to the street. The other three walls are not present, they're open into the interior of the lot.
Do you have anything else? All right, so take a motion.
Make a motion to grant the application.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, application's granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Oh, boy. Oh, no, that was in a Cruises case. That was in a Cruises case. That's not the no-show. The no-show I did call you. Oh, okay, let's do the renewals of the apartments first. So, no, we're not gonna- yeah, I know it. We have 10 accessory apartments to renew and 10 two-family, family use onlys to renew. Do we have a motion to renew those applications?
Motion. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so those 20 applications are renewed for a period of 3 years. And we have no decisions to read in tonight.
Do we want to take, I want to,
Okay.
does anyone want to make a motion on this application?
Okay, so on application number 187-23 that was heard tonight, is there a motion on that application that was amended?
Yes, I'll make the motion.
As amended, right?
Yes, as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that motion's been granted as amended.
Okay, thank you very much.
When
We're
we
all
next-
done.
When are we next on, Mary?